Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Aramutz bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead-making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Aramutz.
From the den of the puppies of the apocalypse in northern Michigan, the Bunny Pen in Ottawa, Canada, and the palatial retirement estate in Minnesota, it's Got Me Live. Welcome to the show. Tonight we're going to be talking with Tom Repas, who's out in South Dakota, and he's a master beekeeper. He makes okay mead.
Okay
in quotes, just so you know. And he's a homesteader. He produces almost all his own food. The man is a Renaissance man. He's done all sorts of things. So it's going to be really fun to have him on. He's been on before. I'm sure some of y'all have listened to some of those episodes, but we're happy to have him back. And we're going to talk with them about all kinds of different things, because now I'm a beekeeper, so I'll have questions. And so many questions. But in the meantime, though, I want to say thank you to all the folks who have renewed or signed up for a Got Me Patreon membership over the last few weeks. You're appreciated. That's how we pay for the things that they make us pay for to do the show and to keep the website up and all of that stuff. So it's real important to have that, and we want to just say thanks, because I like staying on the air. I know you guys, we like being able to get out there and reach people and talking to folks and everything. So but for anybody who's wondering, a patron membership's only $30 a year, about 50 cents a week, get you access to the patron boards on the Got Mead forum and our patron Facebook group, and the award-winning recipes contained therein. Even my Chamerlo pie mint is in there, which turned out pretty good. So in the meantime, if you want to, if you want to listen to us live, you can find us on YouTube, Twitch, X, and Facebook on the Got Mead page. Twitch, we are twitch.tv/meadwench. YouTube is youtube.com/@gotmead. Sorry, Tom is coming and going here. On X, we are x.com/realgotmead. Facebook is facebook.com/gotmead. And Instagram is instagram.com/gotmead. You can find us at for social media. Facebook.com/gotmead is our main page, and facebook.com/groups/group/gotmead is our group. So, and there's a couple questions we asked to keep the spammers out. So just answer those and we'll let you right in. On Twitter @RealGotMead. Feel free to tweet us during the show if you like. And if you want to send us messages with criticisms, comments, yelling, screaming, whatever, questions and people you think we need to have on the show, you can go to gotmead.com, put your mouse over, but do not click Got Me Live Radio Show. Click the drop down and that'll take you to a form that will be sent to all three of us. So we'll be doing pretty good. And with that, I'd like to say welcome, Tom. Do you hear us? Oh, shoot, we lost him again. He's joining over and over again. All right, I don't know what's going on here. So let me get him in here. Tom, can you hear us? Tom?
Yes, I can.
There you are.
Coming in and out, though. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get your volume turned up so we can hear you okay.
Yeah, I've had all the fans and everything turned down, so hopefully you won't hear any background noise.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
I have not
turned
on my fans.
Yeah, I always have my fans going. They go pretty much year round around here. Thanks for reminding me. I got to turn on the one in here. So welcome back, Tom. It's always good to have you on the show. And be warned, now that I'm keeping bees, I'll probably have some questions for you.
Excellent.
Yeah,
it's good to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I was looking, and the last time we had you on was in fall 2023, so it's been a couple years.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, though, let's talk about what we're drinking. So, Kevin, what you got?
Hold on.
Yeah, gotcha. You can turn your you can turn your video off if you want, Tom. We're just audio these days. So
Okay.
someday
I
maybe
was,
if we feel like getting dressed and putting on pants,
That's funny.
yeah,
Nope,
it's
it's
like those
o'clock.
corporate Zoom meetings. Watch out.
Yeah.
Oh, I had to turn my video off. Oh well.
I was gifted a mead a while back from Bill Boyer, which is a name that you'll see listed frequently in the competition circles.
Mhm.
This one is a Lambrusco Piment, and that's
Ooh.
not a grape combo that I have ever had in a mead before, so that's very
No.
interesting.
Yeah.
It leads with very ripe cherry and vanilla, and the honey is hidden behind the grapes. The flavor is kind of medium sweet with just barely enough acid to help balance the sweetness. Then the cherry flavors come through, and there's just a little spritz to give it some life. Can't talk. And I haven't had that much of this mead yet, so
Uh-huh.
that's trouble. I wonder what
Yeah.
is the percentage. She doesn't say what the percentage is, but I'm betting this is probably got quite a bit of alcohol, and it's very well hidden, so it's tough to detect. Nice mead though.
Those are scary.
Interesting choice of grapes, and the fact that it comes through with all these cherry notes is a little surprising. But that's what grapes do. They don't taste like grapes when they're fermented. They taste like other things. So yeah, neat mead.
Cool.
What about you, AJ?
I found a half bottle of I'm not even sure what, so it's mystery mead night, or at least I hope it's mead. I'm pretty sure it's mead because I'm getting honey in the finish, but I popped the cork and it smelled like a very lovely sherry, and so I had a taste, and it tastes like a very lovely sherry. So it's oxidized all to hell, but it's really well done, and I'm quite enjoying it. Whatever the heck it is, whenever the heck I made it. Normally, I'm normally pretty good about labeling my bottles, but this is one of the few that I missed. So
Yeah,
it's
I hear
probably
ya.
like 10 years old and has been half a bottle for like 5 years.
Oh,
And
And
it's a nice gold color. It's very clear except for a little bit of sediment I kicked up when I brought it downstairs. And the legs on this is amazing. Like I don't know why it's got such amazing legs. It's just like coating the glass and dripping all over the place. And it tastes really good.
Pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That sounds nice. What about you?
Vicky,
What about
are you up to?
Oh, okay. I was going to put Tom in the bucket, but okay.
Well, that works too.
All right. I actually I was lazy and didn't want to run downstairs to peruse the pile, so I had the Nidhogger mead was still upstairs, so I've got their Nidhogger's traditional. This is a UK mead. You might remember we had them on the show a couple of months ago. This is a nice, clean, sweet traditional. There is tons of honey in the nose, even more in the flavor. I mean, the honey flavor in this comes through very strongly, so it's a great expression of the honey. There's just a touch of caramel and butter in this, and it's got a real silky texture to it. I really like it. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more acid because it is a sweet mead, but it's still really good. And for any of you out there who might be interested in UK meads, everything I've had from Nidhogger so far is pretty good, and you can get it on the on Center Imports shop page. And their website is Center CENTEUR imports.com. So and he's selling the European meads that he has, and he's selling them over here. So go get you some. But it's good stuff. What you drinking, Tom?
Oh, I'm boring. I've got to get up early in the morning, so I'm just drinking ice cold water. It tastes very good. Clean finish. It's still no carbonation.
Straight from
No
the well.
flavors.
Is it artesian?
No, it's just water. Yeah.
Okay. Mine is artesian, so and Kevin and Tom are both old enough to remember them commercials they used to have with the artisans, and they had their 3-arm sweater thing. You may not have seen those commercials, but they always showed up on our TV for some reason, and it cracked me up. I have an artesian well, so it makes me think of it every time it breaks, So I do have a couple of shout outs for our lovely sponsors. Calling all mead lovers and adventure seekers, look no further than Honeybrook Craft Meadery for your go-to destination for wonderful, light, and refreshing mead. With a location in Castle Rock, Colorado, and the new Garden Cottage experience in Littleton, Colorado, they've got everything you need. Go to Honeybrook, HONNIBrook.com for review of the tap list and to check upcoming events and to order online. And they do ship to most states. And then coming up towards the end of this month, we have from July 23rd to August 2nd, take a magical meadery tour and step into the heart of Central Europe on a journey that blends history, culture, and craft in 3 remarkable capitals, Prague, Bratislava, and Warsaw. Explore vibrant cityscapes and quiet countryside from medieval old towns and historic abbeys to family-run meaderies and world-renowned breweries. You will visit the Mead Museum in Prague, Strahov Monastery Brewery, Pilsner Urquell Brewery, Apimed Mead, Bronislav Novosedlik Mead, Riktar Jakob Brewery, and Pasieka Jaros Mead, Corpo Mead, and Apis Mead. This tour is limited to 25 people, so reserve your spot now. You're running out of time at EuropeanDiscoveries LLC.com/tours/250723CMM. And this link is on the show page too, if that didn't work for you. But yeah, I wish I could go on that. I really wish I could.
I think we all do.
Yeah. Yeah. If he does another one next year, maybe we can figure something out. That'd be cool. Although that's my 40th wedding anniversary year, so I'll probably have other things going on. John's threatening me with Amsterdam, so.
Yeah, not a good idea planning something like that when it's a special date.
Yeah, well, and it's right around my anniversary too. Our anniversary is
Well,
on
you
August
could
9th.
combine them. That would be a
Yeah, that's true. John probably wouldn't mind that because those are all pretty cool places, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And half of them are breweries, so that's cool.
Yep.
But so, Tom, what you been up to lately? You sound like you're doing everything all the time, everywhere, from what I've seen.
Oh my
online.
goodness! My life is very, very interesting, very varied. I mean, I'm always up to a lot of different things. I'm never bored, and if I am bored, I just find something else to do. You know, and it's really been wonderful. It's been really interesting transitioning from home brewer to doing competitions and then to making mead commercially. And there really is a change in mindset in that too. I remember when I first started making mead commercially, I wanted to get the mead brilliantly clear. I'm like, nobody cares about that. We're selling in a brewery where they sell hazy IPA and Hefeweizen, and they don't care. We don't have mead judges coming.
They're trained.
Yeah, trying to take points away. It's like, and it's still pretty clear, but it doesn't have to be as clear as if you're on the best of show table and they're trying to find a reason to pick the best one. So that's been a real experience. I make session strength meads primarily because I'm in a brewery and we need to have it fit in with their products. And Kevin, I think I've told you this before, but if you would have told me 5 years before I started doing this that, Tom, you will be commercial and you will be focusing on session strength meads, I would have been like, what? And I don't have a problem at all with session strength meads, but when I was a home brewer, competing, I thought they were just so simple and easy. And of course it is. It's simple is still hard if you don't know what you're doing exactly, but in a brewery situation, it actually makes so much sense because we can turn them over so quickly, within 6 weeks
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And then there's also the cost advantage, right? Because
Yeah,
you're not
there's
using as
less
much honey.
time, there's less labor, there's less ingredients. And so it makes a lot of sense. And don't get me wrong, I mean, when I was a home brewer, I still really love the standard strength place to play around with. And I've made stronger, I've made all of them, but I'm pretty happy doing it because I get to be creative. We're making small batch, so it's not like I have to keep up this high volume and be making it a certain because I would get bored, to be honest. If I was making a certain one type every week, I would get bored with that. I like to try new things, and it's like the best of being the best of the creativity of a home brewer, and yet I'm commercial, and it's kind of neat. I get to share it with the public, and see I was sitting at so after I make mead, I sometimes go out front. It's a brewery, so I go sit out front incognito and have a beer. Why not? I'm done with what I'm doing. And this one guy, he came up and he was right. He's like, "Have you tried this mead?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've tried it." "You need to try this. This is the best I've had." And I'm like, "Well, thank you. No, you need to try it." I'm like, "Well, I made it." "You made it?" I thought it was gonna hug me and like, it was so fun.
Isn't that great?
And we don't sell bottles. We don't sell in retail stores. That would add a whole nother level of regulation and cost and things like that. It's also sold either right out of the brewery, or if someone wants a crowler, like a large can, you can buy that. And we do have kegs at some of the local businesses, like sometimes restaurants or other tap rooms. I had folks asking me to autograph their can. I'm like, I just make this stuff.
Oh,
I was just like, can we have a picture with you? It's kind of crazy but fun.
that's
that's
very
fun.
flattering. That's
Yeah.
nice.
And the neat
It's
thing
cool
too
to
is
get that.
it is, and so I use my own honey. I am able to produce enough. I've been a queen bee
Oh,
breeder for
really?
many years, but I've kind of transitioned I still breed queen bees. I mean, I love doing that. I don't, but I'm not so much doing that for selling. Except for established customers, I'm not really producing lots of queen bees like I used to back in the day. Because when you have bees, and you're going to use them to do something, whether it's pollination or honey production or making nukes or package bees or queens, you kind of have to focus on one thing. I mean, you can't really do it all unless you have thousands of colonies. So I've kind of transitioned to making more honey, and it really is a really beautiful thing to take this wonderful ingredient honey that my bees have produced, and then to make mead with it, and then to be able to sell it to customers who really appreciate it. It's just like a farm to table, or maybe in my case, maybe from flower to beehive to the glass.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really inspiring and fun to do that. And I try to, we're a farmhouse winery. We're in South Dakota, so we have to use local ingredients, 51% of the time. So, the honey is always going to be South Dakota, so it's mine. But then I try to use fruit is hard to grow in South Dakota, but like the last batch I made was a wonderful sizer, and I used a friend of mine. He's he's a apple grower in central South Dakota by Mobridge. And I tell him what I want, and I said I want an aromatic honey. It doesn't have to be sweet. I don't want dessert apples because the honey is going to be the sugar source. And then he's like, oh, I got it. And so he used Redwell apples, Haralson, and then he has this crab apple cross to add some tannins, and it was just a perfect, apple juice to add my sweet clover honey, which just added a touch of that cinnamon note, from that sweet clover honey.
Oh,
And people
yeah.
are even like,
That's
"Did you add cinnamon to
amazing.
this?" I'm like, "No, not this time." And it was I didn't even save any. I could have entered into a competition, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not. I haven't retired from competing. I might do it again, but I'm like, I'm not really that interested in competing anymore. I guess you get kind of burnt out after chasing the medals for a while. So I'm just having fun making it, and then having people enjoy it.
Unless you're Matt Mead,
Well, and whatever. If it's fun, you keep on going. But
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of
We
nice
have
not
fun
having the
with it.
stress too. Because I remember,
Yeah.
there's always the stress of watching as the medal results came up. Once you're like at the top, the only place you can come is down, and it was like you felt like you had to, or I felt like I had to kind of have. There was expectations, and
Yeah.
it's nice not having to worry about that. It's actually really nice seeing my friends win medals, because for me, if I see a friend winning medal, that's a kind of I'm kind of winning it also, like indirectly. It's kind of I win. I share their joy. It's kind of fun to see that.
Yeah. It is. Definitely. I'm kind of with you. I like watching them win, and I'm happy to be on the sidelines cheering them on.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have quite a following. Like I just got a message tonight from when is your next one going to be available? People are asking. I'm like, when it's
That's
time.
cool.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
meat
When it's
before it's time. But luckily, it's
no
not too
mead
long
before
because
it's
it's a
time.
session strength.
So are
Yeah.
they? Is the brewery running out of product before you have a new one ready to
Oh yeah,
go?
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We could turn it over faster, but it's like I was doing that at the beginning, but I could make like a two different types if I wanted to, but I just make one batch, and then they drink it up really fast because they're like checking the website when it's like on tap, and they come in there and
Uh-huh.
get it. I've sat
Okay.
out there in the front having a beer, and somebody comes in. Do you have any mead? And then the server's like, "No, I'm sorry, we're out." And then it's like, you need to ask him, and I'm sitting there like, "Oh, it's not done yet." It's not ready yet.
So how big are these batches? Are these like 7-barrel or something? Or
No, they're
what?
small. They're only like 90 gallons or something like that. These are small.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like and it's fine. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, but see, I get to make it more often. If I was making a big batch, we'd have to wait until it was drank up.
okay.
Yeah, no, they have
Here.
me in a little corner
Okay.
of the brewery, and it's designated as the winery, and
And
and I
it's
thought
like a
about
pilot system kind of thing that they had in
yeah,
there.
exactly. They have one that's unused, and they're like, here you can play with it, and I could
Okay.
make a little more than that if I want to, but it's not. It's just nice to be able to do it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with a 3-barrel system, if you wanted to make more, you'd have to be in there more days during the week because, the equipment's in use, right? So
Yep.
yeah, you almost at that point, if you want more, you really need to move up to a bigger system then.
Yep.
So what?
And
what is
Jeannie
the
and my
size
wife,
of
we
their brewing
thought,
system?
my Jeannie and my wife and I, we thought about going on our own, but it's really hard running a business.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
I
is.
love
It's
the
so much
rotating
work.
And I
proprietorship
see,
idea.
and
I really do.
the brewer, the brewery owners are our friends also, and I
Mhm.
see how hard Jay and Shannon work, running the business, and it's not even just. I mean, you have to have like entertainment for people to come in, or you have to, a server doesn't show up, then you have to find somebody to replace that. Not to mention the money side, the cash flow, paying the taxes, all these other types of things. It's a lot of work, and for someone who doesn't realize that. And that was kind of the one thing that kind of prevented us from going off on our own because, I'm the fermentation artist. I love making the mead, and I love the production side even with the bees. Starting from that. My lovely wife, she's an outgoing person. She's been in retail and sales. So like if we had our own place, she would be like working in the front of the house, the tap room, and she had worked at the brewery for a while. But the part that nobody likes is running the business, but that's the most important part. If you don't do that well, you're going to fail no matter how great your product or your service is. If you don't, manage your business well, you're not going to succeed. And that's almost like you almost need a third person that can do that, or somebody who's into doing that. So right now it's a wonderful thing that we don't have to have the stress of having a full-time business that we're having to manage. And sure, people would like us to make higher volume, but on the other hand, if you're making less volume, the demand is higher because people can't get as much of it.
Sure.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
as long as they know enough to call ahead and find out if it's there,
Yeah.
I mean, for a business, there's probably few things that are worse than having a customer come in to buy a product and not having the product available.
Yeah, but it's not their primary thing. They're making their
Right.
beers.
No, I get that.
Yeah, and so it's like an extra thing to bring people in, especially for that. So,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying we'll never go out on our own, but right now I'm having a blast. And plus, I do so many other things. I'm like, if I had a meadery that I was running myself, I wouldn't be able to go mushroom hunting, and I wouldn't be able to, I don't know, make cheese.
And play with Jack and
play with Jack, and all these other things that I'm doing.
Scratch
So
the piggies.
yeah, and I need to have time because I still, even if we had our own meadery, I would still want to be making my own honey, and so that's a whole nother that takes time also.
Well, plus you're also still doctoring, right?
Yeah, I only do that part time, 2.5 days a week. But those 2.5
that's
days.
half your week right there. Yeah,
it is, and that's it's a pretty intense 2.5 days. It's almost like 5 days compressed into 2.5 days. By choice. I mean, get her done. I don't mind working hard. I just don't want to work hard like that. 7 days in a row.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Like a gal. We somehow mead came up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm making mead commercially at a brewery in Rapid City. Oh, that's a nice hobby. I'm like, well, no, it's not a hobby anymore. I mean, I get paid. I paid to get paid to make it, and they buy the honey from me from my bee business. So you just give them the recipes and they make it for you. I'm like, no, I actually make it. I'm the one there, cleaning the tanks, mixing it, testing it, coming up with the formulas. So I'm actually, she couldn't understand how somebody can have more than one, job. I mean, even though it's more of a side gig for me right now, they don't, some folks just don't, I think you just do one thing in your life and that's all you do. And I guess for a lot of people that is how it is, but it's definitely not the case with me.
No, I understand wanting to do all the things.
And you can't do everything. I mean, I've realized that long time ago. You can do some things, but you can't do all the things all the time. There's lots of things that, we used to have dairy animals years ago, and that was a nice chapter of our life, which we're glad that we don't have dairy animals anymore. It's a lot of work. But we have sources of milk to use for making cheese that I like, and I would never be interested in making cheese for sale, but not that I wouldn't know how. But that's just one of the things I just do for fun. So that's something that I do for fun. But yeah, it's really is a wonderful thing to be able to have my bees make the honey, and then I get to make the mead with it. And like rhubarb, I grow some of that. I make a basil mead, so I grow all the basil in my greenhouse. I don't know. I'm thinking about making a juniper berry mead. I haven't really decided if I'm going to do that
Ooh,
this
that would
year
be
or in the
nice.
future. But we have juniper berries.
There was a meadery in Virginia that's long gone now, but it was an old hippie guy. He was really cool, but he was a really bad business person, so the meadery didn't last real long. But while he was open, I was fortunate to get up there, and his meads were great. And he had a juniper berry mead, and he had a spruce tip mead, both of which were I was like going, oh no, but they were amazing. They were so
Yeah, so
good.
I've as a home mead maker, I've made a cucumber juniper berry mead many times,
Ooh,
and
that'd be interesting.
it kind of reminds me almost like a little bit like a gin, with a little bit of that cucumber in there. It's a great summer beverage, and I haven't made it commercially, so that's something I might try. I'm glad that I made mead for decades before I went commercial, because we haven't had any big issues, but there's little minor things happening. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that's about. I know what to do with that. Which if I had only been doing it for, I don't know, a couple of years, you'd be kind of learning on the job. And you think about, if you have especially if you're making a really big batch, that's kind of scary if you have, how much money you might have in those tanks, and then you messed it up because you didn't know any better.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Yep, definitely. And you've heard stories. I know commercial mead makers that they had an issue and they had to dump, tens of thousands of dollars because it was basically undrinkable. And it's like, oh my gosh, how do you factor that? And that kind of loss. I mean, that's better than well, hopefully nobody notices it, bottle it, and try to sell it to the public. I've had meads like that.
Well, at least they had
the integrity
the wherewithal to be willing to dump it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of breweries that they'll make a batch that's substandard, and they got to pay their mortgage or the rent or whatever, and it goes out on the shelf, and it ruins their reputation. And it's hard to get that reputation
and people won't
back.
come back. They try it. Right. Yeah, they try it one time, and it's bad. They won't come back.
It's trust, right? When you lose trust, it's really, really tough to get it back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know what they say about the wine business. If you want to make $1 million, you got to start with 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The way to become a millionaire as a mead maker is to start with $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, yeah. You got to have some deep pockets or very, very good quality control or small batches like what you're doing, which is great.
Yeah.
And
yep.
So then you get to experiment and play, and you get the best of both worlds, really, right? You get to play.
Yeah.
And have
basically, all I do
pleasure.
is here's the formula. I get the list of ingredients. They bring them in for me, and I just make it. And so I'm really just being a fermentation artist. I don't. And again, I'm not saying that I would never have my own place, but it's working out so well. It's I'm not really that motivated to do that right now, unless
is the brewery sourcing ingredients for you then?
Yeah, I tell them what they need, and I tell them where to source it to, because I've got connections also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very convenient. Yeah.
Yep.
So when you're out tending your bees, are you also foraging for things that you want to use in your mead?
Well, I keep my eyes open. I mean, you never know what you're going to see. This year has been a years very often. So,
whoops, you're fading out there, Tom.
Yeah, I lost all that.
Yeah, it's been a wet, rainy year this year. So we've had a lot of mushroom sprouting. We don't normally have a wet, rainy year very often, and so I've definitely made good use of if I'm near a forest where there's I know there's mushrooms, I'll be hiking in there before I leave to the next apiary.
Mm-hmm.
How many apiaries have you got?
I have 5 locations. Well, actually 6 locations right now. I try to keep it small. If you get too many beehives, then you've got to upgrade your extracting equipment, and then it's like, oh, maybe you need to think about putting them on a semi truck to California, and where they get
Ugh.
stolen or fall off, and I'm not really into that. So I keep my my number of colonies usually not so many, and it changes. This year I'm trying to increase my colony count because I'm hoping and predicting we might have a sweet clover year next year. It's always
Oh.
anybody's guess, but sweet clover is a biennial, and so the seeds sprout one year and then they bloom the second year, and so you need to have a perfect lineup of weather. So you need to have a wet year, and the seedlings will sprout in the summer, usually July and August or so, and then they'll overwinter and then they'll bloom the following year. So you need a wet summer followed by reasonably moist winter and a reasonably moist spring, and then you'll have a nice sweet clover where it's horizon to horizon. I don't know if you've ever been out to South Dakota or any of the Great Plains states, but when we have a clover year, I mean it's literally horizon to horizon yellow from the clover blossoms.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable. I mean, you can put your boxes on and you come back not even days later and they're already filled, ripened, capped. And so we're pulling the boxes, extracting late into night, and then the next morning we're putting those boxes back on, and it's a lot of work, it's a lot of stress, but you're making more honey in that one year than you might in the following 3 or 4 or 5 years or longer.
So
And
in that case,
it smells so good. The prairie smells like that clover too, that sweet clover.
of course, yeah, that's.
I wonder if I
gorgeous
can
stuff.
get some seed for that, and if it would do okay over here, because I've got to plant some of the back 20 in clover, and both for the deer
So yeah,
and for the bees. So.
there are sweet clover that are what is the word I'm looking for? They are they're seeds. They're selected varieties you can buy, and some of them will bloom the first year you plant them. So if you go to like a seed cell, look for a sweet clover, and that's an annual. They've been selected. The wild sweet clover doesn't do that. It's a 2-year type of deal. But there are types of sweet clover you can plant, and it will bloom that same year. You just have to order it in special from your seed dealer.
Okay.
And I don't know what kind of soil. I mean, it'll grow anywhere, but what kind of soil? Because you're up in Michigan now, right? Is it?
Yeah, I'm up in northern Michigan. Soil's pretty good here. It's
Do you know if it's
not.
acid or alkaline or neutral? It's
It's probably a little. We got a fair amount of pine, so.
That's hard to say. We have pine also, but we're on limestone.
Yeah, it's hard to
So
say.
we're
I
out
haven't tested it yet. I've been meaning to send a test kit into the state, and I
do,
just
so do
haven't.
they grow? So are you really close to blueberries and cranberries or not?
Oh God, yeah, blueberries grow
Okay.
like mad here. Yeah.
Probably acidic.
So then you're going to be
one of
more
my-
of an
Probably
acid soil.
acidic.
So yeah, you're going to be acidic. So sweet clover it's pretty flexible, but it does prefer alkaline or neutral soils.
Oh,
But
okay.
it might do okay.
Okay.
But I mean, you just be aware of that.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, well, and I've also got a metric butt ton of autumn olive because some years ago the DNR was like, "This will be good for erosion control." Yeah, no, it's invasive here. My dad got one, and there's like 4,682,492 of them now just in my yard.
And the bees will work that too. They'll go after that plant. I know a lot of these invasive species the bees like because they're from the same place. They're from Europe or Asia.
Yeah.
Taste of
Well,
like star
taste of home.
thistle. We like our star thistle honey. That's invasive.
Oh gosh, and that's huge here. Star thistle is a big honey here, and the as we're getting, because we're apparently there's a lot more people going into beekeeping here. I mean, I'm just seeing all kinds of people like, oh yeah, I got hives too, and since I got into it, and one of the people I go to 2 different clubs. I'm a member of one, and then I just attend the meetings at the other because several friends of mine are in there. But one of them is Farmer Tom, and his name is John, Farmer John, and Farmer John was saying that that he got a pretty good haul from the autumn olive. The bees were it's an early bloom, so he got that all by beginning of June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you guys have more varied flowers. I mean, where we're at, it's sweet clover is the king, and can get alfalfa, and I know some folks are getting in sunflower and some of these others, but it's hard to find other plants. I know up high in the Black Hills there is fireweed, but I've never really been able to find a location close to like a mountainside of fireweed, so I've never been able to bring any in. I'm always keeping an eye out because there could be a hillside of fireweed, and then there's a private property right across the road, and I would be knocking on the door at somebody's vacation cabin. Hey, could I put some beehives here? But I haven't been able to find a place. It's not like the Pacific Northwest or Alaska where they have thousands of acres of fireweed. But it would be kind of neat to do that if I could find a location.
Yeah, absolutely. I love fireweed honey. I mean, I've had a couple gallons of it here and there, and it's great to work with, and it makes such a really interesting mead. You know, it's another one of those honeys you can pull out and go, oh yeah, you know, you know exactly what it is. There's no guessing involved.
I know that stuff grows around here, but I don't think it grows in quantities enough to make it noticeable in the honey.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a disturbance, like a fire, obviously, or some other disturbance. But it's funny how, you take for granted what you have. I mean, our sweet clover honey is just wonderful, but, I like to have something else to play around with. And, being a farmhouse winery, but, according to South Dakota, we're supposed to, the lady that works for the state, I tried to talk to her. I was like, so 51% South Dakota ingredients by law. So that means I could make an orange blossom honey if I wanted to, as long as it's, oh no, she said, all honey is the same. And I'm like, yeah, that's
honey.
true. I was like, yeah, that's what happens when you've got a person in a bureaucracy, and that's, that was her opinion. But I'm like, yeah, that's not true. But yeah, I know it's.
How do you educate those people though? And it's not. It shouldn't be your job to do it.
I don't know. There's a lot of folks out there that have certain opinions, and unfortunately, they're in like a bureaucracy type of thing, and you can't fight them, you can't make them mad. So, yeah. You must need to do like a tasting, bring in different honeys, or South Dakota's small enough. If I wanted to fight it, I probably could meet with like a state representative. Here, try my mead. Oh, this is wonderful. Yeah, and I'm only allowed to use this honey, and here's why. But the reason why they do it is they want to support South Dakota businesses, which I mean that makes sense. But a lot of fruits don't grow in South Dakota, so you're kind of limited. A lot of honeys can't be produced in South Dakota, obviously, and so it kind of limits us, in trying to have that flexibility. I'm not complaining. I mean, I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and I'm glad that I have sweet clover honey to work with. I mean, I can only imagine if I had some other type of honey that, I don't know, all you have is Eastern buckwheat to use. I was like, well, I could do some things with it, but after a while, you run out of ideas.
I'd love to get my hands on more of that.
And I know they produce some in South Dakota on the eastern side of the state, but I haven't been able to make any connections with any beekeepers out there that I could, get a supply of it. Plus, it's pretty far, so I would have to drive all the way out there to get it, and
When you have an apiary, how many hives do you typically keep in that location?
So a lot of
I realize it's going to vary a little, but.
So a lot of the commercial guys here that are my friends, they usually won't drop bees on a location unless they can have a certain number of pallets. But typically it's going to be, and there's usually 4 hives on a pallet, so it's going to be whatever divides by 4 typically. But typically between 40 and 50 colonies in one area. But that's only for the honey flow. So that once the honey flow is done, they're going to be moved. By October, they're going to be shipped out to wherever they're going to winter or to California. And I don't like moving bees. I mean, I can, but it's like one of my least favorite things to do because they're heavy and they fall off the truck. And I don't have
and the bees get angry and.
Well, yeah, and so I like to find locations, and plus because I'm a queen bee breeder, I try to put my locations like in a circle where my mating yard is, because when a queen bee mates naturally, she leaves a virgin queen leaves her nuke or nucleus hive to find drones, and she'll go in a certain direction. And if I try to surround my mating yard with my hives to kind of stack the cards genetically, so I can kind of maintain the genetics of my bees, not somebody else's that who knows where they came from. And so I don't have that many. I mean, I usually have less than 20 in a location, 10, 15, 20, because they need to be there all season long. So there needs to be enough pollen, in the spring. And then later in the fall, we get a dearth, and there might be sunflowers. But you can overgraze with bees if you have too many in one spot. So I don't have a lot of colony. I don't have a lot of hives in my location, just because I'm not looking to make a lot of honey, during a few weeks, but to also, to be there the whole season.
Yeah. That's what I was asking. Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's just a different, I don't know, reason for keeping hives. It's like I'm not trying to make the most honey in a month. I'm trying to have them there all season long without moving. And there's locations I've been offered that I could make a lot of honey, but I'd have to move them after like 4 weeks because that's it. They'd starve. The clover stops blooming and there's nothing there on the prairie, and then they would starve. So, I mean, I could do that if I wanted to, but I'm not wanting to focus exclusively on honey right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with you scaling up a little bit in anticipation of a good year next year, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
do you then have to evaluate your extraction equipment and etc. Because now
Yep,
you've
and
got a lot
I'm
more coming
luckily
in than you
having
had
I have
planned
friends
on.
extraction. I have friends extraction equipment that I can use, which
Uh-huh.
because if I upgraded to a much larger system, it's like, okay, well, this is too much to be used for say 100 colonies, and
Right.
so now I need to get 200 to 300 colonies. And wait a second, I'm not going to have time to do mead because I'm going to be focusing on the bees, and then so you have to be careful because equipment costs money, and if you increase your size, it'll make it easier. And it also time too, because if you have larger equipment, you can extract more quickly, so that's saving labor. But you have to. It has to make sense that you pay that back, and you're not going to do that with a lower number of colonies. I mean, if you have a lot of money, you can do that, I guess. But I mean, you could get a huge extractor for your your 10 colonies in your backyard. Okay, one spin, I'm done. I mean, you could just you could do something like that if you had lots of money, but that's not me. I mean,
Yeah.
so
And we were
luckily I have friends
talking.
who are sideliners and that I can use their higher their larger equipment when I need to.
Right. That's
And plus
awesome.
we don't have a sweet clover year every year, so I don't need as much
Right.
if I'm not making and again, I could upgrade and get more colonies, but then that's a whole nother road that you can go down to, and I want to still be able to have time to make mead and have our farm raising like a large portion of our own food. I mean, it's something we've done. I'm not a survivalist, or a prepper. I like to raise my own food.
You're a homesteader.
Something beautiful about, you look at the plate and everything on the plate, is tied to the land. You raised it, you grew it, you made it.
I love it when I can do that, but yeah, it's
not as hard as you think, but the learning curve, as I say, I made a lot of mistakes over my lifetime. And I
it's a
still
learning
will.
It
cliff.
depends on what you mean by hard. It might not be that hard to learn, but it's a lot of work to accomplish it.
And commitment too, because
Yeah.
the garden needs to be weeded. If you don't do it, it'll be overgrown, and then
Right.
pay attention.
And then you end up spending an hour every week untangling your tomato plants from each other. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. And that's why, when I talk to people, they're like, I work part-time 2.5 days a week. They're like, oh, how can you? It's like, because I need the other 4 days to raise my food, plus my little side gigs I do. Other folks, they work 5 days a week or more, and then they go to the grocery store to buy their food. And that's a reasonable lifestyle too. I just choose to live differently. And I'm not saying I never buy anything in the store. I mean, that would be ridiculous. I like coffee. I can't grow that. So darn it, I'm going to buy coffee. If I feel like a red wine from California, by golly, I'll get that too, just because I feel like it, or salmon, or a banana or a citrus fruit. I'm going to not limit myself to things that, we had a pretty bad hailstorm, so it took out a lot of our crops. I'm grateful that I live in a time and place where I can buy food. If I lived 100 years ago, it could be a famine. Your family could starve, or even in third world countries. So even though it is our own food, it's not like we're trying to be we're not purists about it. We're just being pragmatic about it. It's just what we do, but we do other things too.
You're doing what matters most to you.
Yeah.
Which is
And with the animals, with animals, it is hard to butcher. I mean, I'll be honest. It's not. I mean, when you've raised an animal from a baby, and then it's time. Butcher day comes. It's not easy. I mean, if it didn't bother you, you'd be like a if you enjoyed it, you'd be a sociopath or something like that. So, I mean, I take a very respectful approach. I have, friends and acquaintances who are, indigenous, Native American, and, they have a great respect for, for the land and for the animals and the plants. And I'm not that religious, but I almost say a little prayer before I butcher an animal. And then as I'm cutting the meat, that's also meditative, how you have this respect for it. And then when I cook it and eat it, that's also a respect there. And that's why I hate when food gets wasted, especially because that was like a living thing, It's not like I'm trying to make a statement or anything like that, but nothing goes to waste. Even if we can't eat it, then the chickens or the pigs, or it'll be composted. We try to make use of everything. It's more just being pragmatic and practical. It's not like we're not trying to make a statement of any kind. It's just how we live our life.
Yeah, it's just, well, and it's always better to be efficient with the things that you have. I mean, why waste things if you don't need to?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
my dad built these giant compost pens that are right now they're all over. It's been several years since my dad was well enough to work his garden and and do the things he used to do around the yard. So it's all overgrown in that. But I'm going to cut it all down. There's grass that's like like shoulder high in there, so I'm just going to whack it all down, and that grass will be the base for the new compost heap. And he has
Yeah,
the 3
yeah.
bins set up and ready to go, and I'm just going to have it right in the middle of my garden so that I can access it for whenever I need it.
And when I started making mead, I started, 1992, I started homebrewing. I needed a hobby to do when I was in school, and I thought, oh, I'll just make cheap alcohol. That'll right cheap after decades and tens of thousands of dollars. Even my lab equipment in my meadery lab and all this stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, you go down that rabbit hole. But once I started I made beer, wine, and cider first, and then obviously being a beekeeper, it was natural I'd make mead. And my first batches were pretty terrible because there really wasn't a lot of information out there about, controlling your nutrients and your temperature. And beer is so forgiving in that way because, it has a relatively high amount of nutrients and you can cover it up with hops. But, mead, especially a traditional mead, you're basically naked. You can't hide behind these flavors if you have any off flavors. But I'm pretty stubborn and I'm pretty passionate and I didn't want to waste the honey. I mean, it's a perfect ingredient. And so to do something that screws it all up, I mean, that's insulting to the honey, but to the bees that literally work themselves to death to make that honey. I mean, they work until they can't, and they do that for the other bees in the colony that many of them they'll never meet. I mean, that honey is going to be used by generations later when that bee is already gone. I mean, there's something beautiful in that. And so when I try to be really respectful of the honey and to not to make an okay meat and if I screw it up I'll get the bees that worked so hard. And so that's kind of how I started, and I really never had any interest in competing at all until friends of mine tried it and said, you need to enter competitions, you'd win medals. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't need no medals. And then I started winning medals, and I'm like, I kind of like winning medals, actually.
It's kind of fun, yeah. Everybody likes
kind of
winning, I mean, it feels good. It's,
Well, and at the time, I was running ultra marathons back then, these 50 to 100 mile races.
Jesus.
And it sounds like I'm like this elite, endurance athlete. No, I was not elite. A friend of mine was a marathoner, and he's like, "How'd you do?" "Oh, I finished second." "Really? In your age group?" "No, second from dead last." But I finished.
But you finished.
Yeah, but I finished,
Yeah.
and in a 100-mile race, even those I finished dead last. But
Dude, I'd take it. Yeah, I mean,
if
why
100
not?
people start, often 50 will drop out. So if you're 50 out of 50 who finish, you're really not. You're 50 out of 100 who started. So it's still it matters. But yeah. But when I started entering mead competitions, I was actually first, second, or third from first, and I'm like, oh, I like that much better. Plus, I wasn't so sore afterwards either. So
Yeah. I just tell people you're a Renaissance man.
Yeah, as people say that, I don't know what that means. I'm just me. I mean,
Well, you're kind of a jack of all trades, sort of. I mean, you do a lot of different things, and you do them all reasonably well. Some of them you do better than that. Yeah.
I feel if you're going to do anything in life, whatever it is, why be mediocre about it? Try to do the best you can. Even if you're still finishing dead last in a 100-mile marathon, ultra marathon, it's still better than not starting at all.
Right.
And it's interesting too, like as a mead maker, how there's the different I don't know, the chapters of your life as a mead maker. Maybe not life as a mead maker, but there's the home brewer, and a lot of folks stay in that chapter their whole mead making cycle. There's the home mead maker, and then you get really excited and passionate. We see that in some of the mead groups. It's always fun, somebody who's like brand new and they're all excited, and maybe don't choose to make, like, I don't know, a passion fruit cinnamon, I don't know, mushroom, buckwheat, like
11 different herbs and spices.
Butterfly pea, like as your second batch. Try to start. Get your
my first
skills,
batch was 26 herbs in it, and somehow it wasn't completely junk. It wasn't good, but it ended up being not bad after it had aged a while. But
And we see
that was
that in
the
new,
first and
in new
only time
beekeepers
I've entered
too.
a competition.
We see that in new beekeepers too. They get so excited. They actually used to call that. I haven't heard this for years, but they used to call it bee fever. You know, somebody gets in the bees and they're so excited. All they want to do is talk about bees, and they get. And it's. I always enjoy it because I remember I went through that when I was like 13 when I first
I
started.
infected my mom with it.
Yeah, yeah, and I still love. I love those critters, but I don't usually corner people at a party. Hey, I heard you're a beekeeper.
Oh, I don't know.
And then,
Every once in a
Jeannie, my
while.
wife's like, don't encourage him, and then meanwhile, 45 minutes later, did you know drone bees only have a mother but no father? What? Like, yeah, they come from an unfertilized egg. And did you know? It's like, oh my gosh. And they're like trying to walk into the other room and I'm following them.
They're backing away slowly.
And so then the other chapter, like, I don't know if it's a chapter is right, but the other stage, and a stage is maybe not right either, because you can do almost backwards. Like, I've known folks who became a commercial mead maker before they understood, like, the science part of it or the art part of it. But so the other stage of mead making is some people get really into the technical stuff, and that could be technical as in the science part of it, understanding how the yeast works, but it could also be more technical, like getting the gadgets. I want to get the latest the whatever gadget or toy or equipment, I want to get the best stainless steel fermenter or something like that. People are really getting into all of that stuff, or even like, building a bottle filler from scratch or something like that. And again, these stages overlap. You can be a hobby home mead maker and be into making different gadgets and things, or you could be doing that as a commercial mead maker. Then there's the competing, and again, a lot of people never compete, never want to.
Mhm.
I almost didn't want to until my friends pushed me, and then you're trying to get better and try to figure out a way to get the medal. You're learning about like regional bias and some of these other things. I'm going to enter this meet to this competition. Should I modify it? And that's strategy.
Oh, you
At the
faded,
same
Tom.
time. Are you there? So
Yeah,
Lost
we're
the last
here.
sentence or
You
two.
you
So
faded out. We lost that last sentence.
yeah, so then after being a contestant and competing, then it's like you might go down the road of learning to be a mead judge, and trying to get better at that. And some people, they make only a few batches of mead and then they just start judging, but they really have a great palate. Maybe they're already a beer judge, so they already know the judging side. So some people get into that. Another stage is where I'm at it, being a commercial mead maker. Again, not everybody wants to do that. Even some of the greatest mead makers I know have no desire to ever, be a commercial mead maker, because what's the old saying? How to screw up your hobby is to make it into a business, right?
Yep.
And I'm glad that that hasn't happened to me. And then there's the learning and then the teaching. I think those both go hand in hand. I love the teaching part. I love to help others. We don't really have the conferences like we used to, unfortunately. The
That's coming
AJs.
back.
Yeah, I hope they're coming back because I miss that, because the networking part is as good. That's the most fun part too. But I love to teach, and you don't really get to teach as much without having the conference. I remember when we had the AMMA meetings, before the pandemic in Broomfield, Colorado, and we had those conferences, and I learned so much, and I was able to teach also. And the old saying is to teach is to learn. If you want to learn something really well, go and teach about it, and you will learn it really well. So yeah, those are the different stages, and maybe stages isn't right because they don't always come in order, I guess, but the different stages of a mead maker. I think that could apply to beekeeping also.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
definitely
a lot of
beekeeper was
things, though.
totally a thing for us.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's like there's a learning curve, right? So you go, it's that 80-20 rule, which applies to so very many things in our lives, and when you hit one of those plateaus, it really takes a long time to move up to the next plateau. But hitting that first plateau doesn't take as much time. So
No,
we tend to go through those stages.
true.
And that's why it's always good to be challenged too. when I was still competing, I had won a lot of medals, but I didn't want to like, I do okay in the fruit and spice category, but I was like, well, I had never won a medal with a braggot, so that was a challenge for myself. I need to win a medal with a braggot, so I did. I haven't won a medal in the sizer category, so I focused on that, and I won a medal in the sizer category. I haven't won a medal with a Polish, so I did, and I just had these little challenges, and then I challenged myself to do the weirdest weirdo medal I possibly could, and maybe not even win a medal, but at least have it to where you could drink a glass. It didn't even have to be the whole bottle, and I succeeded with that. And it's you make and I'll never make that one commercially. Oh my gosh! But it was a lot of fun doing these things. It was a black garlic mead that I had made, and so yeah, that was a lot of fun to have these different challenges to myself, because that's how you learn, is by challenging yourself, and yeah, sometimes making things that are not okay.
I think it's interesting too when you see some of the weirdo mail type things that people make, then all of a sudden everybody else is making them.
Oh my God.
I'm thinking back to candy
Butterfly
cat
pea
mushroom.
blossom, candy
Oh,
cat
that too.
mushroom.
Yeah, butterfly. And at one point, Bouchers were like that.
Mhm.
Well, I know,
and of
after I
course,
won,
the Peeps
after I won
mead.
Mazer Best of Show with my, my second Best of Show with the pineapple mango habanero. Oh my gosh, there are all these hot pepper meats being made,
Right.
which is fun. I mean, some of them are really hot, and I can take the heat. I mean, I can take the hottest hot sauce. I go to an Indian restaurant, I ask for India hot, so I can
Oh,
take
geez,
it fiery.
that's fucking hot.
Yeah, I like it fiery hot. But in mead, you shouldn't have to have a chaser of water either. So if I'm judging a mead, and I who tolerate, the hottest of the hot heat, and it's like I've commented, it may be a little more balanced when, we're not trying to make a hot sauce, and because you should be able to drink it without having to take a chaser. And that's going to be, because some people might like, I just want to feel pain. I'm like, okay, good for you.
That
I
can
just
be
like to be able to.
arranged.
Yeah,
Okay, but
it can
don't
be.
feel surprised when other people aren't as hot about it.
Yeah, and like I make hot sauces too, and I made this one hot sauce. It was a like sort of a I wouldn't say a clone, but it was in the style of like a Mexican hot sauce, like a tapatio or a Cholula or one of those. And somebody tried, they're like, "Well, it's not that hot." I'm like, "Well, it's a Mexican hot sauce. It's not supposed to be out." I didn't, I could make it really hot if I wanted to. That wasn't the goal of that. So even
They don't really make their sauce all that hot normally.
no, they have flavor. You should taste the cumin and the
Yeah.
garlic, and you can put a lot of it on your whatever food you're putting it on, because you want that flavor.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I can make a ghost chili whatever meat,
Sure.
Trinidad Scorpion, whatever.
I still remember way back at the very first mead making conference that UC Davis put on, and I had gone out. Pete basically dragged me out there, and we were having one of the after gatherings, and Mike Ball comes out, and he's got his mead of poetry, which is a sweet trad, and he'd taken like a couple dozen bottles and just dropped a ghost pepper in each one and left it in there.
Oh God.
Like like the like it was tequila or something. And it was, I took one sip and my face just melted right off. I was like, "Yep, nope, you can have that back, Mike. Thank you very much. I'm gonna go over here and gargle water now or something."
I guess it's kind of the same as like new mead makers. It's like, oh, this yeast can make up to 17% alcohol.
Oh, sure.
Let's do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to push the boundary every time.
It's like
They were so
brand new
excited to think
homebrewers
that they
with
could.
beer.
They didn't
Just
stop
because you
to think
could
about whether
doesn't
they
mean you
should.
should.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Vicky, you've gotten to beekeeping now, I hear, or something like that.
I have, Tom. I started early this spring, and I've been wanting to do it for a while, but before we were on 3 acres and really there wasn't a lot. I mean, it was so grown up around us, there really wasn't a ton of pollinator friendly, so I didn't think it'd go well. And I also knew that at some point we'd be moving, so I didn't want to have to add that into the mix. But once we got up to my dad's place and got, well, not settled in, but moved in, Half my stuff's still in boxes. My mead making area is a disaster. But yeah, I bought one nuke or package actually, and got that going, and it went off gangbusters and went real good, so well that my instructor, because I was taking a beekeeping class from a local master beekeeper,
Good.
me and about 10 other people, yeah, and he was like, we need to split this, so we ended up, and then somebody got their hands on a whole bunch of is it Randy Oliver Scientific Beekeeping?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got one of the people in the class got a line on Randy Oliver Queens, and so we ended up, the whole group bought in on that. And for I don't know what, I think I was thinking I was going to replace my existing queen because my instructor was going, I don't know, she seems like she's kind of weak. We might want to replace her. So I got two, and then we're like, well, no, it's going pretty good. So I ended up buying two nukes from my local supplier, and not bee nukes, but the boxes, and put those queens in there. Brought a couple of frames and a bunch of bees over from the other one, and off they went. So now I got 3 hives, and we just moved them. They stayed at my instructor's bee yard until middle of last month. Now, towards the end of last month, and then I had to. So at 11 o'clock at night, John and I, with headlamps on, inside our bee suits. Which, let me tell you, headlamps don't shine real good through. Yeah, didn't think of that. One of my mentors was like, now you probably got to put the red light on because it's pretty dark, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and it's gonna be dark, and you don't want to piss off the bees, so don't use the white light. Well, the red light didn't do any damn good at all, so we switched over to the white light because what are you gonna do? And Emma was like, and of course we picked a moonless night to do this, so it was darker than Satan's arsehole. It was ridiculous, and it was stupid. And then I had bought bags to put the hides around because we were gonna strap them down in the back of the truck and take them home. And I also got steel cloth to nail over the gaps in the front so that we try to keep the bees in. Well, the busy hive had other ideas. They were all nicely asleep, and we go to put the steel cloth, and they're like, oh no you don't, and they came boiling out of there. I got stung 5 times. and then I couldn't get the bag on the hive because it was a double deep and it was pretty heavy, and so John's trying to lift it and I'm trying to get the bag into it. I'm laying under the stand on the ground trying to do this in the dark with the light, sweating because it was hot, and oh my god, it was a comedy of errors. It was hilarious. And we finally got everything situated, and I managed to not let any of my bees, or hardly any of my bees, get away. There were 1 or 2 I think got left behind, but we got them home, and I got them down on my. I built stands out of bee stands out of pallets with like 2-foot legs on them, so they're up a good ways off the ground. And
Vicky, they're Tom back in again there.
Do I have what?
Do you have to let Tom back in there again? He's back in the queue.
Oh, he's back in the queue.
I think it dropped him again.
Yeah.
There I am.
Did you get dumped?
Sorry
about that. Yeah.
So one of the things that I mean, and your mentor's probably telling you this too, but it's always valuable to think 3 months ahead of time, like the next season ahead. Right now we're in the summer and
for winter, so
yeah, you need to start thinking, how am I going to get my bees ready for winter? Because what you don't want to have happen is it's October and you're like, oh shoot, they need food. Oh shoot, I didn't treat for mice. Oh shoot, and then it's too late. You don't have enough season left. So I learned this decades ago. Oh, you should always be thinking, right now my hives are bringing in plenty of honey, and they're also putting it down in some of the lower brood boxes. So that's good. I don't think I'm going to have to feed, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. In a drought year, though, I might be, calling it quits and saying there's nothing coming in, and they need to, unless I want to feed all of their stores as syrup, which costs money. And you need to be thinking about, your whatever your mite treatment you're going to do towards the end of the summer.
Yeah, and I've already been treating for mites, and I'm coming up on a break on that, and then I'll test again and see where we're at. We've actually got a class this weekend where we're going to be discussing prepping for winter, and because we've been in a bit of a drought from a pollen standpoint, a pollen and nectar standpoint here. I'm not planning on taking any honey. They're going to keep it all. Plus, I've already got Hive Alive.
And plus,
I've got,
as a first year, that's not a bad thing to have. I mean, not to say there are plenty of people who've made honey their first year for a
yeah,
colony,
I'm not. That's
but
fine.
when you're
I'm not
starting
going
out, that's not a
anywhere.
bad
And,
bad
yeah.
plan. The other thing to
Now,
remember too
if
is
I manage to expand my hives, I've got a girlfriend that's one road over that has like 40 acres of blueberries.
Mhm.
So
That's
I'm
great.
planning
Yeah.
on, I'm going to ask her if I can put a hive or two over there if I haven't, if I can do that, if she'll let me.
Although if it's like only a couple of miles away, they'll fly over there. They'll fly up to 3
Oh,
miles
you
away if
think
they.
so? It's not even a mile. I mean, as the
Oh
bee
yeah, then it
flies.
doesn't matter. They'll fly that far.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Because
they'll fly up
as
to
the
3
bee
miles away, even
flies,
longer.
yeah. I mean, it's walking distance. It's probably 3/4 of a mile, if that.
Oh yeah, they'd go over there if they need to. Yep. So then the other thing too, us in the northern tier of states, the bees start raising their winter bees around mid-August, August 15th. So you need to have healthy bees being raised at that point. So I start thinking about my late summer mite treatment around that time.
Yeah.
I often use formic acid, but sometimes the days are too hot and you can't use it until you have a window
Yeah.
of time.
I'm
And
using Apivar, or not Apivar. Shoot, what is that new one that they have? Because Apivar, the bees
They're
were
starting to get
the
resistant now
the
for
yeah,
mites were
Amitraz. Yeah,
resistant.
that one
Yeah.
is.
So
We've known that for probably 5 years or so. That's why it's kind of
yeah,
sad. You've probably heard a lot of the the hype about they had a
50
greater loss
60%
than
losses
ever, and,
last year. Yeah.
62%, but they were using Amitraz, and we knew there's a high resistance in most areas. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's not sad, but on the other hand, if we knew that it was happening, kind of what did you expect would happen?
Yeah. I know a couple of the commercial beekeepers around here had 60 and 70% losses last year.
Yeah, it is terrible, but it's like if you're using Amitraz, then you should have already known that there's resistance. We went through this back in the
Yeah.
late 90s and early 2000s.
My instructor told me about that. He was in fact I bought Apivar and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? Why'd you buy that? I told you guys." And I'm like, "No, you didn't. I wouldn't have bought it if you'd said
Yeah,
something."
so we went through that with the fluvalinate and the Coumaphos back in the 90s and early 2000s. The synthetic miticides, and the mice became resistant to it. As far as we know, the organic acids probably not, because it works more on a physical way. And it's like with formic acid, for example, or even oxalic acid. If I poured like sulfuric acid on you, you would burn, right?
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
you might heal up.
Yeah.
And then if I tried
It's
it again,
bad.
well, you'd probably run away or punch me. But let's say I did it again, you would still burn. It's not like you can develop a callus that's going to prevent you from burning. I mean, like I said, you'd punch me or run away or both. But so probably, but they're hard to work with too, because formic acid, if it's not done right, the temperatures are too hot, you can
Yep.
have a high loss of queens. Oxalic acid isn't
I think we
effective.
might have damaged a queen with that last year, because we had one very
Yeah.
badly underperforming queen from a nuke who had overwintered with them. So yeah, I think we did damage one last year.
Well,
But
they'll
everybody
usually
was fine this
replace her.
year.
It's not like you'll damage her and then she'll be bad forever. I mean, they'll usually say, "Uh-oh," and part of it might be too because the formic acid
No, like
can
she
cause.
wasn't keeping more than 2 or 3 frames of brood at a time after we
So
treated them.
yeah, she might have been already
And
defective then. It probably wouldn't have lasted. They would have. But what often happens
yeah.
is there's a lot of brood kill with formic acid if the temperatures are too high, and the
Mhm.
bees interpret that as, oh, there's a problem with our queen, and so we need to raise a new queen, and so they'll supersede her. I
Mhm.
find if the temperatures are okay and you're careful, I might treat 50 hives and maybe only lose 1 or 2, so that's not too bad. And a lot of them are often older queens anyway, so it's maybe going to happen anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
this year when we
I ended
did the formic acid, we planned it very carefully, and then the freaking weather changed the day we put the damn pads on.
I've been
So
there
we
too.
did end up with a spike about 3 days after we put it on, but it says that it should be okay for as long as it's not in the max temperature for the first 3 days.
That's what
And we did
85
That's
end up
about right.
degrees.
The first
Yeah.
40, 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, we
The
did
other
end
thing
up
I've
with
done,
one. We did end up with one hive that went queenless, but like before we put the pads in, we were gonna split it anyway. And then we come back and we look, and we've got peanuts in. It was a double deep, and we got peanuts growing on both sides. So it's like, okay, let's just split this now. And
yeah,
both of them have brood now, so they did their thing.
That's cool.
And the funny thing is that queen was a late requeening from last year, because we noticed in like late August that, oh shit, we've got no queen. What do we do? Can we get a queen? No, we can't get a queen. So just as we were putting on our year-end miticide, we were like, okay, well, we'll do one last check before we combine this with another hive and then split them out next year. And lo and behold, there was a new queen and she'd been laying. So they requeened themselves late in the season, but I guess she didn't make it through the treatment this year.
Months. Yeah.
No, she made it. They made it through winter because that hive was huge and it was teeming. But for some reason, it just went queenless, and it's like there's no eggs and there's no. Oh look, there's peanuts. All the queen cups everywhere. Okay, so we've got enough queen cups that this one's got 2 or 3. This one's got 2 or 3. Okay, they both got a pretty good chance of making it, and they did, which was really cool.
The other thing that
I
you
ended
see
up
that
going with Viroxan ultimately, which is the
is that the oxalic acid based one, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it's newish. It's like out in the last year, and I read an article about it, and then somebody had one of the people that were involved with getting it out there did a video, and I liked it because oxalic acid, it has really good uptake. Yeah, I mean it does a really good job, like 98.5% reduction. And it's not temperature sensitive, and I like this. It's safe for honey supers, is what they said. So
unfortunately, we're still not allowed to do OIV with the supers on here yet.
Oh, that's really crazy. Yeah,
that's really annoying.
Canada,
so the oxalic acid, the vaporization or sublimation, whatever you prefer to call it, it's very effective, but it doesn't get into the brood, into the cat brood. So it's really nice. I use that as a cleanup. After I've treated in the late summer and I'm wrapping my colonies in November, I'll give them a zap of that, and that'll clean up any mites I didn't get. I also use the oxalic acid vaporization if I've made a split and maybe I put in a queen cell instead of a laying queen, and so now there's no capped brood. Yeah, and there's a brood break, and so you can zap them with that. You can treat them with that. Randy Oliver actually has some information on his website. If you make it, I think at day 19 to 21, after you have done that, there will be no cap brood, and after you put the queen in there, there'll be no cap brood, and you can just treat them with that. But some folks tried doing it every 3 days or 5 days, and it doesn't work. They've done studies where, even if you do it 5 times in a row, you're hitting the mites that are on the bees, but in the brood rearing season, most of those mother mice are going to be down in the cap brood, and they're going to not be treated. But by using the pads, that's a little different situation. And Randy Oliver did a lot of work with this, making the homemade pads, which are,
I watched his video on that. That was really interesting.
But what's good about the oxalic acid pads is you keep them on for a good long time, like 6 weeks or longer. And I find that they don't have the knockdown. Like, so if you have a mite infested hive and you put on a formic acid pad, you look at it 24 hours later, I mean, the bottom board is full of dead mites. And I have to admit, I love seeing that even to this day. Kill those little things. But with the oxalic acid pads, you don't see that. So it keeps down the number, but it doesn't really bring it down like that fast. So it's really good for keeping the mites under control, like basically in the summer during the honey flow, because you can have it on when you have honey supers on. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't treat like with with formic acid or thymol in the late summer, but that's and I use oxalic acid pads also. So
well, these strips that they've got now, and I think Randy Oliver did some talking about them too. They had just come out when he was doing the pad stuff, and it delivers. It says it delivers the oxalic acid consistently for like 6 to 8 weeks, 42 to 56 days.
Yep. That's the whole summer season. So there's a new mite treatment that's supposed to be coming, and it's not I don't know if it's EPA approved yet or it's going to be. It's called Vedascana. I may not be pronouncing it right. Vedascana. The brand name is going to be called Noroa. I don't know if y'all have heard of that. It's kind of interesting. It's a double-stranded RNA inhibitor of the calmodulin gene in the varroa mite. Now, people hear RNA.
I understood like every third
word
of that.
Okay. So RNA, people start freaking out. It's like, no, so it's not going to affect anybody's genetics. It's not like a GMO. But basically, RNA affects proteins in many different ways. It's in every species, including in humans. And this one's very specific to the calmodulin gene in the varroa mite. and it doesn't appear to have any crossover to bees or, and they tested it with monarch butterflies, everything else, and it affects fertility. So it doesn't kill the mites, but it prevents them from reproducing. And when this product comes out, it's not available yet. It's supposed to
Yeah, I
last
see it's still
18
in. It
months.
says it's still in pending registration. So
Yeah, so it's supposed to last 18 months, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, I know read the basic science behind it. It's fascinating that with something completely different. It's not an organic acid, it's not a synthetic miticide. It works through a completely different mechanism. It doesn't appear that it's going to cross over to any other species. But I guess time is going to tell how it's going to work in like the real life setting, because we've had so many things that we were excited about, and it turned out that it didn't really work out. Like a few years ago, they had this bacteriophage that they were going to have for AFB, for American foul brood. There was a lot of hype about it. And it just shut down. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if they didn't get their regulatory paperwork in order or something, but it just kind of disappeared. So I don't know what happened with that, but there was a lot of excitement about it, and then all of a sudden you didn't hear about it.
Yeah.
A couple
So
years ago, we had to treat our hives with antibiotics because the neighbor lost 2 hives to AFB.
yeah,
And fortunately, because everybody in Ontario has to register their hives, they didn't have to come to us and let us know what happened. The association came to us and said, "You need to get these inspected. Call the inspector, get them done."
wow.
yeah. So when I was a kid, I started in 1981, but I was in the mid 80s. I was a new beekeeper back then, but we had a neighbor, not right next door to us, but down the road within a couple, a few miles, close enough that the bees could have, his colonies. And he was an elderly 80-something-year-old, and he had lost his wife. He was widowed, and then his bees got American foul brood, and he had to burn the hives. And I remember we seeing the smoke, like we drove by, and you could see the smoke. They put them into a big pit and they burned them. I'm gonna start crying just with that memory. And he didn't even live that much longer than that. They say he died of a broken heart, first from losing his wife, and then
I
second
believe
from
it.
losing his bees. And so the
Oh, man,
inspector came
yeah.
around and checked our colonies, and thank goodness we didn't have any, and we had to treat with antibiotics also.
Hmm.
But I still remember that vision of the smoke. Right, what's happening? They're burning the hives, and
Yeah, our
he
neighbor had
passed
to burn
away.
2 of her hives, but the rest were
Yeah,
okay.
his was a
Apparently.
lot. His was probably a
Oh,
few dozen. He had many hives, and so he had a few dozen hives, and it's such a sad story. But a lot of folks now, we don't see American foul brood as much, and we're getting complacent. The reason why we don't see it as much is because there's such a good bee inspection to take care of it. And sure, you can treat with antibiotics, but those spores last 70 years, and so you get old equipment. I would never buy old equipment. Hey, there's some old equipment sitting in this barn. Do you want it? I'm like, nope, because you don't know what if it had American foul brood in it. You could put your bees in there, and then they could have it too. Now they can treat it with like irradiation, like if there's a radiation chamber somewhere, but a lot of places don't have that where you can put the beehives in there. But they do treat that in certain places where you put it in there and it irradiates everything, and there's no spores alive. But that's just not available in most places. But yeah, I would never get used equipment from somebody I didn't know. I mean, I would never do that, because otherwise you'd have something you'd have to be dealing with. And they used to, like, some beekeepers would treat with antibiotics every year. Like when I was a new beekeeper in the 80s, I did not do that. And this older beekeeper said, "Oh, that's like I was a bad beekeeper." I'm like, I don't want to. I was in medical at that point, and I was a kid, but I thought that doesn't make sense to be using antibiotics, twice a year if they're not sick. And sure enough, there's a lot of resistance now to the original antibiotics that we were using back in the 80s and 90s. So that became a problem too. I mean, luckily we don't have American foul brood that much, but it could come back. A lot of states are coming back on their apiary inspection programs, and and then bees are getting transported. You buy a nuke from who knows where, and then you have there was some American foul brood in there you didn't know about it, and it just comes back later on.
I'm so glad all the nukes we can get here are local.
Yeah.
Well, you got our choices. I mean, there's queen breeders here in Michigan, which a lot of us, we want Michigan queens because they're more acclimated, to the local.
Yeah, you want
climate.
local.
And my first queen came from California. So then that was the one that we were talking about replacing with the Randy Oliver, which is also a California one. Yeah. So I think next year I'm going to see about getting some local queens, and as I expand.
Yeah, we got a Buckfast queen once, but due to
Oh, wow.
some inexperience issues, the hive got cleaned out and raided and stuff because
Oh,
we
bummer.
don't know what
But
we're doing.
you're lucky up there in Canada. They actually do have the true Buckfast up there because in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
we can't bring in bees, but in Canada they can actually get the Buckfast that has been continued over in Europe. There are individuals who sell Buckfast here in the U.S., but they haven't
These
kept
I
up
think
with the.
these are from Buckfast. They weren't actually imported, but yeah.
Yeah, and they
Okay.
can actually have those genetics so that they're pure. But like in the U.S., they have had them, and they haven't brought in Buckfast genetics for like decades, so it's not really Buckfast
Really? I didn't
anymore.
know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they're supposed to be better. But I tried Buckfast back in the late '80s. Oh my gosh, they were the meanest things. They may be different now. These were the ones for American Buckfast. They were not the
Mm.
actual Buckfast, but that's what they called them, and they were
Yeah.
very defensive. And
The
me,
strain.
I will not tolerate defensive bees. I should be able to work my bees in a honey flow with a veil, or maybe even no protection. And then if they're a little bit irritable because there's a dearth, then I should still be able to work them without gloves, even though I'll have my jacket on. But if there's like one colony, I'm working 30 colonies in a location, and I just got started, and the 30th colony on the other end is already coming at me, and I haven't even gotten there yet, and I got to suit up. That's not acceptable.
You're going down, hive.
Yeah, I don't really like, I never enjoy requeening, but those defensive colonies, yeah, I enjoy requeening. We've got to get rid of those genetics and put in a queen. And it's
We
amazing how
haven't.
it turns over within a few weeks. That they'll have new worker bees raised, and the whole mood of the colony just changes. They're totally different.
Yeah, we haven't had any problems with angry bees aside. Like we always have one or two angry buzzies that want to try to chase us around the house, but only a couple per hive.
And
And
every colony can have a bad night. If there was a skunk, scratching
yeah,
on the entrance all night long, they're not going to be, when you come to them the next
well,
morning, they're be
there
happy.
shouldn't have been because we've got an electric fence, and then we've got a fence around that. And so far, the bears stayed away from both the fences.
Yeah.
And yeah, but every now and
Dang.
the last one I was in the last time I was out was getting a little bit testy, but it was also like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I understand why they were getting a little bit grumpy.
This is interesting too. So some nectar crops will shut off midday, and like one of the common ones is actually buckwheat. Common buckwheat like produces nectar in the morning, but then shuts off in the afternoon, and the bees can get
I didn't know that.
kind of grouchy. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
an interesting thing. I mean, if there's other things that they can forage, then maybe not, but certain flora sources will stop producing midday, and then so in the morning they're focusing on nectar gathering, and they're docile, and then you come back like 3 in the afternoon and they're all grouchy. So I can tell when the dearth comes on too. It's like I'm going to check my bees to see, do I need any honey boxes, and oh, I got to put my my jacket on. I'm like, oh, I guess the honey flow's over.
Yeah. That's what mine
It's
were, because I must have moved them right as the dearth was hitting, and so I gave them a week to settle in, and and kind of get used to the new location. And I've actually got quite a lot of flowering. Where they were was in this giant field which didn't have much but grass growing in it, and where I am, it's like I've got apples and pears and all kinds of. My dad was huge on flowers, so there's like a shitload of flowers around here, and just all that kind of stuff, and a week later, I go in, and as no sooner do I get in there and take the top off the hive to start my inspection, and I got mobbed. They're like, "No, back off!" And I was like, "Okay, fine."
yeah,
Have you had a chance
It's
to get in
amazing how
there?
far they'll go too. There was a study done. I think it was up in Montana, where they were bringing in safflower, and the nearest safflower field was 7 miles away.
Holy
That's
cat!
that's the furthest that's been documented that honeybees can fly for foraging. Yeah, and so
That's
uh,
nuts.
7 miles out there, one little bee, and then she doesn't just go turn around. She's got to like gather her nectar and everything, and then turn around. Isn't that kind of crazy? And then of course, if there's a storm, she'll get caught out. She won't make it. Like a thunderstorm comes over.
Yeah,
But that's interesting too,
yeah,
because I've been in a yard working bees, and all of a sudden, they were just buzzing the normal activity at the entrance, and then all of a sudden, I mean, all these bees were flying back, and I'm like, what's going on? I noticed that, and then I look right over the hill. There's a thundercloud coming, And I'm like, oh, I better finish up. And 20 minutes later, I mean, I'm right in a thunderstorm. It's raining. It's lightning. I mean, they know. It's like, we got to get back to the hive. I mean, they probably sense the pressure front coming through. But that's just amazing how in tune they are. I mean, they know the weather's changing even before I do.
Yeah. Oh, we got a question in the chat. Austin Brown is asking, he says, I heard recently about fungal treatment where the fungus affect the mites but not the bees. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, no, not really. They've talked about like mycelium type of things, but that's not really a. Yeah,
Not
they
a
were
thing
doing
yet.
yeah, they were trying to do mushroom extracts and things like that, but that didn't work out. So
Yeah.
I was doing a
Okay.
quick Google on that, and the article I found was archived from 2004.
yeah, it was
Okay. So it didn't pan out, basically. It was
no,
somebody's
no, it didn't.
idea, but it didn't really come to fruition.
Yeah, there's a lot of
And
ideas out there, but making them actually work is a whole nother thing.
no kidding.
Yeah.
We also
Yeah.
have, of course, a bunch of Nathan questions, because we always have Nathan questions.
Because Nathan is awesome.
Because Nathan is totally awesome. Yeah. Okay, so he says, growing much of your own food has considerable advantages and benefits, but is also understandably a lot of preparation and maintenance work. Are there some herbs or vegetables that you currently cultivate or desire to plant that you find also might work best in a future mead? And then he puts in parentheses, to dill or not to dill.
Oh my gosh. I've thought about all kinds of things, but now that I'm a commercial, I have to be careful. As a home brewer, you could I want to make a cilantro mead. I never did that, but I've wanted to, and or maybe I could just put some soap in there. But no, there's all kinds of things that you might think that's going to be a really weird combination. How are you going to make that work? But if it occurs in a food and it's delicious, then perhaps it could work in a mead. I mean, I don't know. Maybe blue cheese might not work in a mead. I mean, maybe I don't know if that would work. But so yeah, I've thought about all these different things. I mean, I like the I mean, there's different kinds of herbs. I like the aromatic green herbs. So I'm thinking about basil and mint and some of those. But there's other herbs that we don't think about that much. Like a really good example is lovage, which I don't know if you're familiar with lovage. It's in
I'm
the
familiar
parsley
with
and
lovage.
celery.
Yeah.
And it's like a very intense parsley celery combination. It's its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and they've used it, and it's more commonly used in Europe. But I'm like, how would that could possibly work in maybe not only with lovage, but maybe with a combination of things. I'm like, that's a pleasant thing, and you could maybe do something like that. And yeah, dill. I love dill. It's funny, when I was a child, I didn't like dill. My mother is German, and she would make these really highly this dill cucumber salad, and I didn't much like it. But then I became an adult, and it's like a switch went off in my brain. I'm like, I love it too. I can't get enough. It's funny how your palate can change over a lifetime.
Pickled cucumbers with dill. And,
I love that.
They're not
and I never
pickled in
used
the
as a child. I
traditional
didn't
way,
like it much, but
yeah.
I love it now. It's like, give me dill. And I was like that with cilantro too. When I first tasted cilantro, I'm a person who doesn't have any dislikes, to be honest, but there's things I like more and things I like less. But I mean, I thought cilantro was kind of soapy-ish, but then I was living in Arizona. I'm like, I'm going to taste this. And then a switch went off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love cilantro. I'm like, it was so weird how that happened. I could say the same thing about hops too. I remember my first craft beer I ever had was, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and it's not that hoppy compared to IPAs, but compared to the American light lagers, the Budweiser, whatever we had, it was pretty hoppy, and but then I was like, well, I'm gonna drink, and then I tried other, then I had my first IPA, and it's like, wow, I like hops. It's just interesting how your palates can evolve over time. So yeah, there's all kinds of herbs out there. There's things like chervil and borage. I mean, that's a cucumber flavored herb. That could be an interesting herb to play with. If you did borage and cucumbers, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But
really,
it might make an interesting, because the cucumber of borage is not exactly the same as the cucumber of cucumber, and that might be a interesting combination. When I was a home brewer, I made a basil mead. And I put cloves in it, and I entered a competition, got a medal. I did not declare the cloves. I was being sneaky. Cloves has the same aromatic compound that Italian basil does. It's called eugenol. And so I didn't add a lot of cloves. I didn't want somebody to taste it. Oh, there's cloves with basil. But I put a little touch of it in to make the basil seem more basily. And it was a little neat thing knowing how those, to know how
That's a
those
great
flavors,
idea.
just a little bit more basily than, more, this is like very intense basil. And it was because that cloves, and you couldn't pull it out as cloves. You could only taste the basil. It just seemed more intense. It's
totally
like cooking.
stealing that
It's
idea.
like cooking. You can put a little tiny bit of garlic in something, but you can't actually taste the garlic. Or like when I'm making a tomato sauce, some people put like a little bit of anchovies in there. I just put a little splash of fish sauce in there because it adds umami. Yeah, I've actually put fish sauce in mead too, not as a commercial mead maker,
Really?
but when I was a homemade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I put a little touch of it in there. Not enough to make it fishy. I mean, that would have been offensive to people. But when I wanted, wanted to make a very umami mead, I put just a little bit in there to add those the naturally occurring glutamates and just make it have that more intensity. So when you're going, to answer Nathan's question about herbs, you could be playing around with ingredients like that too. So you could use an herb that like dill, but you don't have to make it really strong dill if you don't want to. You could just add it as a low, like a support note, and then you have to ask yourselves if you're going to compete, do I declare that or not? Because this is what I learned early on in competing. If I put every ingredient that I added and it wasn't strong enough, they would ding you for it. I don't agree with that. I mean, I understand the point why they did it, but I mean, sometimes some flavors are not supposed to be in your face. Sometimes they are supposed to be in the background. Hot pepper, it shouldn't be judged on how hot it is. It should be, is it enjoyable? And so that's why, I don't know, if you put like a little vanilla in something, but it's not very vanilla-y, they'll say, well, I didn't detect any vanilla, and they might score you low, but the vanilla might still be there. It might be adding a complexity that you can't really pull it out separately. So I wouldn't declare like a little spice that I added because I would be punished for it because it's not, in the forefront of the flavor.
I like adding mustard seed to cooking, even though I don't actually enjoy mustard.
Yeah, it's commonly
it
used
amps everything else up.
Yeah, it's commonly used even in Indian cooking. There's a lot of whole grain mustard, and of course you heat that in the oil before you to let the spice bloom. A friend of mine, this was years ago. A friend of mine who's an excellent commercial mead maker, whom I respect greatly. He made a comment, and he said, "Yeah, mead making is a lot like cooking. Winemaking is more agriculture, and then mead making is a lot like cooking." And for a moment, I got highly offended, and the reason why is because as a beekeeper, we're kind of the black sheep of agriculture. We don't get the respect of, like a cattle rancher. They make movies about cowboys, but there's not movies about beekeepers riding into the sunset, even though we are working often after the sunset. So, I was mildly offended because it's more of like beekeepers. Of course, we're agriculture. Of course, honey is agriculture. But then I thought about it some more, and he's absolutely right. I mean, in many ways, how we play with the ingredients and the flavors, it really is a lot like cooking. A lot of the best mead makers that I know, whether they're home mead makers or commercial, many of them are excellent home chefs because they know how to play with flavor in ways that are almost become intuitive. I mean, when I made that pineapple mango habanero a few years back that got the best of show at, what was it, 2017, a friend of mine asked me, well, how many times did you make that before you perfected it? And I said, just once. I imagined what it would taste like in my mind, and then I made it. And that comes with a lot of practice. When you're first starting out, you have to follow a recipe or something like that. But most of you who know me, when somebody asks me, what's your recipe, it's like you're asking the wrong question. What was your inspiration, or what was your technique, rather than what my recipe was. But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for some really interesting combinations of herbs and spices that we haven't even really thought of. I made an apple pie mead last year that everybody loved, but that was pretty obvious. I mean, that's not very creative. I mean, it's like, but people liked it, But especially as a home mead maker, you can really go out there and be inspired by desserts or by ethnic foods. And I'm always trying to come up with new ideas that maybe no one's made, or maybe someone hasn't made the way that you might make it.
Yeah.
I made a mushroom mead a few years back. It got a best of show in at the Texas Mead Cup. Again, I was a home brewer back then, and I wanted to add a spice to it, but I didn't know what. And so these were oyster mushrooms that I had grown myself, And oyster mushrooms, not the domestic ones as much, but the aspen oyster mushrooms, they can have a little bit of a black licorice or anise type of flavor, and the domestic ones not so much. But I wasn't sure what spice to add, so I made a little. I cooked up a bunch of them, lightly sautéed them, no spices really, and then I plated like I made one with nutmeg, one with cinnamon, and then one with star anise, and that hit it. I mean, oh my gosh, it was a great combination. So I made this oyster mushroom mead with star anise, and it really worked really well enough for them to give me a best of show. I've never made it commercially. I don't know. Maybe if I have my own place, I'll do something like that, but I'm not sure I want to do that. And I don't know if the customers would like it or not. Maybe you could do it as a one-off if you had like your own dedicated meadery. Then maybe you could do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we have another one. I'm trying to type and talk at the same time, and I'm not very good at that. It's a Nathan question. I understand your best honey seasons yield behind the mix of flora being among your sweet clover, and in some years a higher percentage of alfalfa is apparent. Are there some desired qualities to those alfalfa years that would make for a better traditional in your experience?
Oh, yeah, alfalfa is a very neutral honey. It doesn't have a lot of strong flavors. I mean, some people detect like beeswax and things like that. I don't have a lot of my locations near alfalfa fields. There's a couple of them. I'm grateful to get the honey, and you want to put your bees next to a lazy farmer. So most farmers cut their alfalfa hay when it's no more than 10% bloom, and the reason is the alfalfa hay has a higher protein content. It's the most nutritious for whatever livestock's going to be grazing that. So you want kind of a lazy farmer that lets it bloom halfway or whatever. And they don't really care. But the other problem too is some farmers we get weevils out here and other things, and so they sometimes will spray them, and so that can be really bad if they spray it when the alfalfa is in bloom, obviously for the bees. So I don't really try to put them too close to alfalfa myself. But for making a mead with an alfalfa, I mean, you could anything. It's such a neutral palate. I mean, you can flavor that with anything. Sweet clover obviously has that cinnamon and then even vanilla notes, and so it goes well with anything that you might pair with that type of those type of spices.
Yeah. Okay, that's something to think about. Yeah, I gotta plant some kind of cover crop back in the back 40. So. Okay, Minnesota being fifth in the nation for honey production, roughly 1,400 commercial beekeepers. We've experienced our share of bee die-off that will substantially affect sustainability in the honey harvest. In your area of the country, how do you see your efforts at splitting up colonies and bee nutrition as a way to address the onslaught of viruses and varroa this summer?
Oh, that's a really good question. So South Dakota usually goes back and forth between Montana being second in honey production in the U.S. North Dakota always wins; they're always number one. But you got to remember, most of the beekeepers that come up to the Great Plains are actually not from here. I mean, after the almonds are finished in California, there's truckloads of bees either coming back out here. This is around April, getting ready for the clover, or they might take a side trip, like maybe they're going to go up to Washington State and pollinate apples, or maybe they're going to go south. So there's truckloads of bees coming out of California to go to other places. And we do have our beekeepers that are based out here, and they've been out here many generations. But it's hard because if the prairie, there's not a lot out there. You have the cottonwoods providing pollen in the spring, and there's some other things, but there's not a lot out there for the bees. So there is a lot of challenges out here, compared to like if you're in Minnesota and there's a hay field, and then there's a soybean field, and then there's a hedgerow, and there's a forest, and there's bottomland where a river flows, and maybe there's maybe you're near a small town where there's basswood trees planted and other things. So there's a lot more mixed floral sources out there as compared to if you're out here in the prairie. And I'm that's why I have the prairie right next to me, but I keep my bees up in the hills where we have pine trees, which unfortunately the bees don't really utilize those, but we have wildflowers and we have canyons, and there's lots of different wildflowers in that. And I'm not going to make as much honey as if I put them out on the prairie during a clover year, but I also don't have to worry about feeding them protein patties, or worrying about the variation in pollen sources and getting enough nutrients. So it is a big problem, and they've really struggled with trying to come up with a protein supplement that is nutritionally complete. I mean, they recently, I can't remember where I read it. It was earlier this year where they came up. Was it Washington State University? I can't remember where it was, but they came up with supposedly with a protein supplement, pollen replacement patty that's going to be better than any that's on the market. Again, I'm gonna wait and see. I hate to be a skeptic, but I've seen things come and go in my last 44 years of beekeeping, and things get hyped up and nothing happens.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't have a good answer for that, because beekeeping is hyper local. I have friends 15 miles away on the prairie where they're going to make a great clover crop, and I might not be making as much, but then they have to move their bees, because there's nothing for them out there after the clover is done.
Yeah, I get that. Now, I mean, see, just on my 20 acres, I've got a swamp in the back. So there's a flora that goes along with that. Plus, I've got a whole woods, and there's it's a good mix of hard and soft woods, and there's all kind of everything going on in there. And then I've got a big field. Plus, I've got a couple dozen apple trees and pear trees and crab apples, and yeah.
And remember, they'll go up to 3 miles away, so they're not just you; they're going to your neighbors.
Around me, around
even out of
me,
sight.
around me, I've got a cattle farm. I've got some fairly big fields laid in clover. There's the big blueberry farm. There's cherry orchards and apple orchards, and these are all within a mile or two of me.
So a few years ago, quite a few years ago, I had bees at this one location, and they brought in this honey that smelled like mint flowers, not like minty, like mouthwash or mint leaves. Very floral, and we have mountain mint here, but it's up in the high altitude. And the only thing that I can figure out is we do have cat mint here, and it didn't smell like the leaves, because that's like cat pee. But the flowers, it was a very aromatic honey, but it wasn't enough for me to harvest any, and it was mixed down in the brood boxes. And so I tried to capture that in future years, and I've never been able to do it. I don't know if things were just right. It was a wet year. I mean, I don't even know where they came from. I drove around. I didn't see it, because it would have to be a big field. I mean, it would have to be a few acres of catmint, but maybe there was some disturbed ground nearby and it decided to sprout, or maybe it was down by one of the creek bottoms. And I always wondered, I would have been a neat honey to have, even if it's just for me, even if I just got, just a gallon or something for me for my own personal use. It would have been neat to have.
Play with, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would.
I love dandelion honey, but I can't really produce it because my bees are coming out of out of winter and they need it. But like friends of mine, well, like Wayne Gibbons in Nebraska, he's made dandelion honey, but he's brought his bees back from California, and they were strong, and they and so in a year where there was a lot of dandelion, but even him, he had to pull out like one comb out of a super at a time and extract it. So he would get the dandelion honey that wasn't mixed with anything else. But I love dandelion.
He did that
honey.
for me.
It smells like a dandelion flower. It reminds me of my childhood.
I love dandelion honey.
And it doesn't really get
me. I got 1 gallon.
It's a wonderful honey.
You got a whole gallon of it, Kev?
Yeah, it's a beekeeper's honey, though. People that I have served the mead made with it generally do not like it. It's too grassy.
Really?
I had the same thing. I entered a bottle. I entered a competition, and the judges didn't like it. But every beekeeper I served it to said, "Boy, this is just like dandelion."
Well, right, that's what I was going for. But you give it to people who don't understand, and it's just like, oh, that's so grassy. I don't like that.
That's why I curate the meads I take to various events.
Well, that's the thing about judging too. It's like we've all judged, and I've judged the honey. Exactly. Yeah. If you don't know the honey, because I've judged some meads and they were kind of I hadn't heard of it. So, there is Google. I looked up the flower and what the honey's supposed to be like, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I can. But it is, you can choose you can make a wonderful mead out of a floral source that no one has ever heard of, and if they don't understand, I mean, think about basswood. If you've never had basswood honey, you would be like, ew, that's medicinal.
Well, I like
camphor.
Basswood. Yeah.
I like basswood, but I know what the honey is like, and so
yeah.
But it's the same, or buckwheat for that matter. If you don't know, if you have never had it, you'd be like, "Ooh, that's funky."
We were having that conversation at my last bee club meeting, and somebody said something about buckwheat, and I said Eastern or Western. They said what?
Well, and you know me,
So
I
I
try not to
told
even
him.
use. I try not to even use those terms. I try to because it's so confusing. I was
It
trying a
is,
honey at
yeah.
a little tea shop, and they had buckwheat, and I said, was it Eastern or Western? And they're like, well, oh, it's Western. And I said, oh, really? Let me try it. And I'm like, oh no, that's Eastern. And they're like, well, it's grown in
Yeah.
Washington State. I'm like, well, it was still funky, and even though it was grown in Washington
Yeah.
State, which is the West Coast, but it's actually. So I use the term either common buckwheat or I just Phagopyrum esculentum, which is the common buckwheat, or I use Eriogonum, which is the.
Most of
It's
us
just
don't
there's
know the Latin names for them. There,
it
Tom.
just gets
So
too confusing. Well, even in the East Coast, that you can buy what they call bamboo honey, quote unquote bamboo
Yeah,
honey. I don't know if you tried it. It's a kind of a dark brown, reddish honey. It's in
I've
the
heard of it.
it's
I
in
haven't played with it much.
it's in the buckwheat family. It's not funky like buckwheat, but it's Japanese knotweed. It's an invasive species. But
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
actually thought it was
Yeah,
bamboo. I was talking with a beekeeper. He thought it was like bamboo. Like the pandas and stuff. It's like no,
yeah,
that's the grass. It's not actual bamboo. It's
yeah.
a common name that is Japanese knotweed or
Used to
whatever.
describe
Mm-hmm.
Japanese knotweed. Yeah, which is invasive as all get out. So,
Yep, another
um,
invasive species that the bees love.
let's do another. Let's do another Nathan, because God forbid we miss any of his erudite and very in-depth questions. Um, as a forager and fungiculturist, are you considering any? I love that phrase. Are you considering any Italian oyster mushroom shroomamel mead version since your bumper crop 5 years ago?
No, I made the oyster Juromel years ago as a home brewer. I'm probably not going to do that commercial. I mean, maybe if we get our own place, might do something fun like that. But the other thing I've learned too is when you're making when you're commercial, you're making it for the masses, and you're not making it for these
Yeah,
critical
you have to
mead
make what they
judges or
like,
something.
not what you like. Yeah.
You got to make what they like and not what you like, and you can't make it too out there because some people might like I made a strawberry rhubarb mead. I mean, and then like people love it because
Oh, I
everybody says strawberry
love
rhubarb pie.
strawberry rhubarb mead.
Yeah, everybody's
Yeah.
had strawberry rhubarb pie. It's a great combination. It's natural, and but even when I made like my blueberry basil, it's like ooh, but some people loved it. Some people like I don't like basil, but you got to be careful if you're doing it commercially, because I mean, unless you're in a very large population, I guess if you're in a big city, there's going to be enough people that will try really unique things. But you got to remember, I'm in South Dakota, and a lot of people vacation here, but they're coming from the upper Midwest, and so I can't make anything too crazy.
You could, you
Otherwise,
can if I come
I
out
bet
there.
you
I'll drink
can.
whatever you put in front of me.
yeah,
I
but I
bet
can
you
still make
can.
stuff at home. I mean, I haven't really. I have all these. This is embarrassing, but I have a whole bunch of my carboys from home brewing that I just basically forgot about, and the airlocks are all dried
Oh,
out.
yeah, I
They
have a
probably
couple of
just need to
those.
be
I've
done.
got to try. Yeah, I'm gonna
Because
see if I can
when I
rescue the
stopped
one that I
competing, I didn't
got
really
like
have
that.
like the inspiration to deal with them, and probably there was a lot of good stuff there. But I don't drink that much of what I make. I mean, for
Yeah,
one, it'd be
same.
an
Yeah.
alcoholic. But and for two, since I wasn't really competing, although I did pull out, I don't remember how old my Dvozhniak is, but I had a good friend visit me, Jason Finger. He's in some of the mead groups. He came out. He's
Yeah, I
from Vegas.
saw that.
Yeah, and so I'm like, let me open this Dvozhniak, and I kid you not, it had the thickness of a balsamic vinegar, but it was not a balsamic.
Oh,
It was not a
wow.
vinegar. It was still
Wow.
very tasty, and I'm like, I probably better bottle that. That thing's been evaporating off over these years and thickening. But
So
I mean,
how
it
was
was
the
thick.
oxidation though?
It was beautiful. It was beautifully oxidized, like the most delicious of oxidations you could want. So that's probably another reason
Like
why I
what I
better
was
bottle.
drinking tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 5 years old or 7 years. I can't. It's been in that barrel for a while, and it has a huge airspace in there on purpose. But it's got the oak, and so the tannins really help protect it from like the bad oxidation. And plus, it's
That's
got
true.
the
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I wish I could do something like
One.
that, actually, but you couldn't really justify having something in a barrel for 7 years before
Not
just sitting there.
commercially,
Yeah, not you could. I
Not
mean, there's
commercially.
no
Yeah.
cash flow.
unless you're selling at Schramm's prices.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Who knows? Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't sell
Yeah.
that except for Sham's price, and even that I wouldn't even sell it. I mean, that stuff is like gold.
Mhm.
Yeah. No kidding. I'd say I've got one bottle of Heart of Darkness, and that is going to get cracked open at our 40th wedding anniversary next summer. So
There you
Yeah,
go.
those
Yeah.
delightful meads. I mean, some of those are just, yeah, they just
Yeah.
they're when you try a mead like that, that's it's like it's life changing almost.
It kind of
Not
is.
yeah, it's not common to have meads like that.
No.
And as
No,
mead
it
makers,
really isn't.
we aspire to make things like that, and
Yeah.
I've been told that I've made some of those over the years. But yeah, you're certainly not going to be making those every day. But on the other hand, you don't necessarily, that's not what you need to be drinking every day either.
Oh gosh.
Sometimes you just
Yeah.
want a beer to crack.
Yeah, or a session
Yeah.
mead. Enjoy it. I don't have to overthink it. It's delicious. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. I can have
Yeah.
another one. It's not too strong, and it's a hot summer day. So
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what, if it's really hot, I'll take like a whole pile of Kevin's sessions because I haven't made any sessions yet. I got to get cracking on that if I ever get my.
I like
mead
sessions.
making
It's so
area
fun.
cleaned up.
I was never
they're fun.
against sessions at all. I was just more like, I like to do things more complex because I just like to do but it's such a wonderful thing to be making sessions commercially and not have to be worried about bottling and label approvals and all of that stuff. So
I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that sessions have come a long way in the last 5 years, and you're starting to see quite a few even commercial session meads winning competitions these days. Which,
yeah, they were
Yep.
always looked down upon for so long.
I
And again, I
know,
wasn't looking
but
down on them. It was more like I just enjoyed making something, in a standard
it's
strength. It wasn't. I never looked down on them.
I think it's a testament to the technique and the ingredients and the adventurousness of the mead makers that these things are starting to win competitions.
Well,
And
I think also some of the new
I know
think
products
that's something
too.
to celebrate.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and it was like that
product
in
too,
homebrew
like
and
you
in
get
beer
the
competitions for a
Oxy
while. I remember in beer competitions you couldn't win unless you made like a Russian Imperial Stout or a
Right?
double IPA
Yeah.
or something. And like you could make a beautiful pilsner, and it's like, man, it's harder to make a really good pilsner than to make like something big and strong flavors. And a
I
session
agree.
strength is like that too.
Yeah.
But that's changed too. Those kind of things are winning comps now too. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's great.
the world has shifted a little bit. People have become more sophisticated in their drinking.
And even like the drinking consumer, not everybody wants to have something that's really strong, for health reasons, for calories, for, being able to
Driving
drive
home.
home. Yeah, being able to drive
Yep.
home. And I mean, don't get me wrong, a beautiful made sack mead, in a brandy glass on a cold winter night by the wood stove, right before I go to bed. I mean, that's a delicious thing too.
Yeah.
Obviously made well, not rocket fuel. It's hard to do that unless you age it for a long time, and but they all have their place. That's what I love about mead making. As a fermentation artist, I can express myself in so many ways. And like I've made beer and wine and cider. I can mimic all of those, but then, you could just think of all these combinations that you would never even think about putting into a beer or a wine.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
My
kidding.
mead list to make is somewhere in the range of 400 deep now. I'm never going to
Is that
get
all?
to them all. Never going to get to them all. But it's like you were saying before, Tom, inspiration, and a lot of it comes from cooking. Some of it comes from cocktails that you hear about, just ingredient
Oh, yeah.
combos that you want to try out. It's like, oh, that sounds good. And then if I did this, that would add a cool twist to it, so that goes on the list.
Yep.
Maybe I'll
Yep.
get there.
Well,
Maybe.
some of them come from what's around you. I mean, like I got
Mhm.
here and my dad's a lilac fiend. So I've got like 20 lilac bushes. They're huge. And I mean, these are trees pretty much. And I was like, I love the way they smell. What would they taste like?
Well, people make them all
And
the time.
Mhm.
oh yeah, absolutely. So I took a whole last year's collection of lilac flowers, and I steep them in a honey. Actually, I've got a gallon of honey I've got to strain the lilac flowers out of it, and it tastes like lilac. It's awesome.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna make a mead out of it as soon as I can get to my mead making area.
Right? Yep. I have 12 gallons of elderflower going right now.
Yeah.
I love elderflowers. They're awesome.
Yeah, I love elderflowers
Truly
too.
amazing.
It's commonly done in Europe. Elderflower is more commonly in
Absolutely.
Europe.
Yeah,
But
I've got one more bottle of this UK Nidhogger mead that's an elderflower. That'll be the next one I crack open probably.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got one more, Nathan. Okay, so he says, you are an accomplished fiddle player and flautist, cheesemaker, and more. Is there a particular challenge in your hobbies you would say that has made you a more pragmatic mead maker.
Oh gosh.
I know,
All I
right?
can say is, do not ask for me to play the didgeridoo. I can fake it with like I can fake it better than I can actually play. I cannot figure out circular breathing. I can do it for a while, but then I feel like I'm hyperventilating because with circular breathing, you're breathing in your nose while you're pushing the air out through the air that you've acquired in your cheeks so that it continues. And I can do it for a while, but then I just start hyperventilating again. I think if I just went to Australia and they put me in the outback for a couple of weeks with a Aboriginal didgeridoo player, I'm sure I'd get it figured out. There would be no distractions. But that is one thing. I love the instrument. I think it's so ancient, but I just have not been able to get that figured out. So yeah, there's always things that you try to do, and then you don't have the time, or you just can't figure it out. But I mean, I probably, if I set my mind to it, I could. But I just anyway, yeah, I'll just listen to didgeridoo music. I won't play it for anyone.
Oh, come on! And when I come out, I'll bring my Aussie rain stick. We could have a concert.
And unfortunately, I'm not really playing the fiddle anymore because I got rheumatoid arthritis, and so
oh dear,
that's rough. And it's under control. I really can't complain. But I've lost finger strength, I've lost dexterity, and I try to play the fiddle, and I was getting trigger fiddle, and I miss it a lot. But I miss running ultra marathons too. I miss a lot of things. I used to have horses, and back in the day. I mean, I went to school to be a farrier, and I still have my forage and my anvil. And I don't have horses anymore. I really miss them.
I miss riding. Yeah.
Well, and I used to ride up. We would pack up in the wilderness. And I love packing on mules, and I know how to tie a diamond hitch. When it's like in a thunderstorm or in the dark, and I know how to balance those packs. And I miss all of that. But as you get older, you realize it's a chapter of life for everything, and sometimes you can't do things forever. You can't do things or do them the same way. And it's bittersweet, and I don't want to sound depressed or something like that, but that's why I really
we evolve as we grow and we age. We have a beginning.
I believe in doing everything that you can, to 110%, realizing that it may not be forever, because nothing is forever. We're not going to live forever.
Nothing is forever. Yeah.
But do it to the best you can. Not even trying to be better than others. More just in the joy of doing. There's some joy of doing something well, and even if no one even sees you doing it, who cares? Even if I was making excellent mead and no one ever tried it except my close friends, that's fine. And there are people like that I know too, that they make some amazing mead. They've never entered a competition and will never go commercial, and I'm just glad to have them as my friends, so I could get to try their meads that are better than even many of the ones that you can buy. And so, it's just like you need to do things while you can, and do it, with the utmost of passion and dedication, knowing that you might not, and that's fine. I miss not being able to play the fiddle. I probably could start playing it a little bit, but it wouldn't be the same. And, but I can still play my washed up bass.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. It only has one string, but it's just realizing that, life is, everything is transient, and just to be grateful for, everything that we're able to do. And then the people that we meet as we, as we go through that journey of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to get out there to see you. I mean, I was telling John, I said, we need to go to South Dakota. I mean, we have to go to South Dakota. It just has to happen. And he's like, it's not happening this summer. I'm like, that's okay. We're going to the Upper Peninsula at the end of the month for our 40th college reunion, and we're camping, which should be interesting.
Oh boy!
And I have not worn a bee beard for a couple of years. I'm overdue. I need to change my Facebook profile.
Yeah, I just say.
Yeah, I was going to do it this summer, but I got busy, and I like to do it July 4th, but I was busy and I just didn't get around to it. But I still need to wear. I like to every now and then. I need to cuddle up with my my girls, as I call them.
Yeah. It's
very ticklish. I'm very ticklish, and they're crawling all over. Some will try to crawl in your nose.
Oh,
and it's very warm when you have them all over you too, because bees generate heat when they're in a cluster, and they smell wonderful. The colony ferrum, it's like lemon or lemongrass, and so it has a very wonderful.
Mhm.
Bees smell wonderful. I mean, unlike other livestock, I got my pigs, and you get whatever your chicken. I mean, they
These are definitely the best smelling
livestock.
livestock.
But bees, they smell good too. But I need to do that. I need to wear another bee beard at some point. But
Yeah, you do.
maybe next year.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that next year will be the year we get to come visit. Never been to South Dakota, so.
Yep, when we're near a lot of things, we're in the Black Hills. And a lot of people here,
Mhm.
South Dakota, they think frigid Arctic wasteland, but that's
No,
not
that's
really
North
what
Dakota. That's North Dakota.
Nice.
I'll be driving across it. You can see from one end to the other, just about.
Well, any other questions or anything? I guess it looks like we're at 2 hours. Huh?
We're right at 2 hours, and your timing is great. I am so tickled that you were able to come on the show, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it was useful. Hopeful. I hope I didn't bore anybody with talking about everything.
No, we had a lot of interaction on the chat. People were asking questions and making comments, and yeah, no, you were doing good. So you're always a hit. Everybody likes you, Tom. So
well, thank you.
We all want to be Tom when we grow up.
Yeah, we want to be you when we grow up. So I would just say I have farm envy. So But yeah, we'll let you get going. Tell Jeannie we said hey, and I guess hopefully I'll get out to see you soon. But in the meantime, are you coming east at all for any of the comps?
I hope so. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like anyway. I hope so. It's been a while since I've gone to competitions. I need to go and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mazer's still in Milwaukee, and of course, Michigan Mead Cup is down by Detroit, so that's kind of a haul for you. But Mazer in Milwaukee is not terrible, is it?
No, I enjoyed it when I went to Milwaukee. That was a lot. That was awesome.
Yeah, Milwaukee's a lot of good food there. I love the Polish and Slovenian and all kind of middle.
Well, and I
Eastern
lived
European
in Wisconsin,
food.
but for 4 years, so I know Wisconsin well. I was north of there, but anyway, yeah, Wisconsin's a great place. Good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. All right. Well, get you going, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
take care.
You all have a good evening. Great to chat with you as always.
All right.
Thanks so much,
Likewise.
Bye, Tom.
Bye, Tom. Okay, so we got a crap load of stuff going on out there. Summertime, so a lot going on. And Austin's going, hey, talk up Michigan. Yeah, Michigan Mead Cup is awesome. We don't know the date yet, but it's going to be in September sometime, we think. And I'm looking forward to it. That, and I get down to southeastern Michigan a couple times. So between that and I'm speaking at the Michigan Beekeepers Conference in October, I believe it is. So they asked me to speak, and I'm like, I am a new beekeeper and don't know anything about bees yet. So why do you want me? And they're like, mead. And I was like, oh yeah, I can talk about that all day. No problem. We got this. And I've got 2 clubs here that now want me to give mead making classes. It's like, okay. So I got to get my ducks in a row for that. But all right, events coming up. July 16th, Kingview Meaderies, Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania has their trivia night. July 16th, Hidden Hive Meadery in Vista, California is doing Cheese and Bees, a social cheese and meat event. July 17th, St. Ambrose Cellars in Beulah, Michigan has Blair Miller with live music. July 18th, Bumbling Fools Meadery in Minneapolis has Comedy Summer Showcase. July 19th, Four Brothers Meadery in Festus, Missouri has Femme Fatales live music. July 19th, Doggone Bees Apiary and Meadery in Hanover, PA has mead making class. July 19th, St. Ambrose Cellars, Beulah, Michigan, Tim Krause and the Downtowners live music. July 20th, White Winter Meadery and Winery in Iron River, Wisconsin. That's way up in the north of Wisconsin on Lake Superior. Has WPR Music Bingo, which sounds like it'd be fun. July 20th, Thistle Rock Mead Company, Charlottesville, Virginia, has Kinfolk playing live music. July 21st, St. Ambrose Cellars, Beulah, Michigan, has a honeybee marketplace, and they have that every Monday until Labor Day. I'm going to go up and do that. July 23rd, Hidden Hive Meadery in Vista, California, Cheese and Bees, a social mead cheese and mead event. July 24th, Apis Mead and Winery in Carnegie, Pennsylvania has Thursday South Hills Group Run. July 26th, Four Brothers Meadery, Festus, Missouri, Cherry Bomb, live music. July 26th, Moonjoy Meadery in Lenore, North Carolina has mead and mindfulness in a salt cave. Starlight Meadery in Pittsburgh, same day, the 26th, has Claw's Bird Rescue visiting. Drunken Smithy in Lebanon, Pennsylvania has Forged Viking Mead Fest, also on the 26th. 28th, St. Ambrose Cellars has their Honeybee Marketplace. The 31st, Breeden's Orchard in Juliet, Tennessee has Mead and Meditate with Skeptic Meadery Meads. August 1st, Bumbling Fools Meadery in Minneapolis has their summer comedy showcase. And we got a whole slew of International Mead Day meaderies. So White Bear Meadery in Maplewood, Minnesota, Apis Meadery in Carnegie, Pennsylvania. This is all August 2nd. Heidelberg Meadworks in Esperance, New York. Funktastic Meads and Beer in Midlothian, Virginia. WA Meadworks in Lindenhurst, New York, down on Long Island. Alternative Beverage, Belmont, North Carolina. Metzi Dairy Eckert in Zofingen, Switzerland. Viking Alchemist in Smyrna, Georgia. Honeygirl Meadery in Durham, North Carolina. And Kingview Meadery in Mount Lebanon, PA. I'm sorry, that was on the 6th. But all the rest of those were all on August 2nd on International Mead Day. August 9th, my anniversary, Four Fires Meadery in Maumee, Ohio is doing a make-your-own mead hands-on fermentation workshop. August 9th, Four Brothers Mead, Festus, Missouri, Discord and Rhyme having live music. And I love this one. August 10th, St. Ambrose Cellars, Beulah, Michigan, Alpaca Palooza with Northern Alpacas. And I'm like, got to go to that.
Take pictures.
Oh, I totally will, yeah. August 14th, Breeden's Orchard in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Mead and Meditate with Skeptic Meadery Meads. And of course, support your local meadery. If you don't have a local meadery, or even if you do, you can go to shopmeads.com and there's mead from all over the country. Some really great stuff out there. Get out there and check it out. And of course, if you want to get your event on Got Mead Live and have us announce it, feel free to email it to me at gotmead@gotmead.com and I'll stick her up there. Give me a link so that I can be able to send people to your place. So in the meantime, and upcoming, blah, blah, blah. Hang on, I forgot to copy that to the show page. So let me get there. Okay. Coming up, July 29th, we got Corey Mason, Tree Hive Meadery. August 12th, Matthew Mead, who just kick butt and took names at the Indiana Mead Cup. August 26th, Brian Green at Center Imports. So that's the guy who's doing the Eastern European meads. And the UK meads. So and he's also doing the trip to Eastern Europe. So that'll be fun. So we've got a lot going on and a lot coming up. So in the meantime, get out there and be excellent to one another. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Night, everybody.
Good night.